Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon in the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you today. It is, of course, Sunday, and it is, as you can hear, some background noise out there, but it's Sunday. It is July 30th. As you may notice, change to the studio. I happen to be in New York City at this moment. This is our new studio location. We're going to be here for, the foreseeable future. And I hope that everyone's going to find this interesting. Things are a little bit difficult. There we go. And thank you, Graham, for getting in touch with us. If you may notice, this is a temporary setup. I know that I look a little bit, it's a little dark on me. We were going to try and get a shot of New York City from the Bronx so you could see the outside. That didn't work. I have to redesign the entire studio, so please bear with me. So if this is the first time that you're seeing our program, I want to thank you for being part of the audience. I also want you to know that we do long-form political commentary every Sunday when we're talking with you. We're going to be live. We take your calls from anywhere in the world, including your chats and your tweets. We just moved the studio to the Bronx in New York City, and so it's a little difficult for us today. This is the first time we're testing this new setup. Please let us know if it is working or not, if you're able to see everything properly, if you can hear everything properly. We're going to try and do our best. If you notice, I have to look over to the side to see the comments, so please bear with me. Graham says, I look a little dark today. Michael, aren't you dark every day? Well, to an extent, yeah. I'm bronze. At least that's what they tell me. I'm bronze. By the way, how does my audio sound? Can you hear me okay? I just want to check with the audience. Let me know if you can hear me all right. Because I hear it a little different in my ears with this new setup. It's, let's see. Mary's with us. Hello, Mary. What made you move to the Bronx? A couple of things. Bad investments, the higher taxes in upstate New York, the lack of support from the Broome County Republican Party. So it's a combination of all of those factors. I'm actually on my way out of New York State because it's just going to hell in a handbasket. And there's just no reason to continue to be here after my entire life, but in the last 20 years of my political efforts, whether running for Congress, whether running for local county representative, I've seen so much of a downward progression, and it's just not worth it. So that's why I moved to the Bronx temporarily. And okay, the audio sounds fine. Thank you. No, I'm going with I'm the political dragon. In fact, let me show you something. People may recall that AI, we've heard a lot about AI. AI is going to be the future of America. It's going to destroy Hollywood. It's a big deal. And a couple of days ago, I couldn't go to sleep. It was just before we're trying to get everything moved over. And so we decided to try and put together an AI movie. I'm not good at art. I don't really know computers. I know how to run a computer. I don't know programming, but I used AI, and I decided to use AI to try and create a movie to see what I could come up with. I'm going to share with you what we were able to put together, and this is on the website right now. Okay, so you can see that there, and let me play this for you. It's 1 minute. 1 minute, so bear with me for just 1 minute. There we go. Okay, and check this out, folks.
Where silence holds more power than words. Behold, a legendary moment in the heart of a news media. In a mesmerizing display, a red dragon makes its presence known, taking command of the moment. Its fiery proclamation leaves reporters and politicians in awe. A message without words, yet unmistakably clear. The flames die down, but the impact remains, an eternal lesson etched into their hearts. And so, dear viewers, we witness a paradigm shift where silence reigns supreme, a reminder that in the chaos of words, sometimes the most powerful message lies within the spaces between. This has been a remarkable moment in journalistic history, as the red political dragon reminds us all, no soundbites allowed. Welcome to a...
All right, so you got to hear a little bit of that, a little bit different, that's what you can do with AI. It took me about 7-8 hours to put that together. Everything, almost all the elements in there, in fact, all the elements in there were created by AI. The animation, the artwork, the script, the voice of the person speaking, that was all done by AI, by me, in the space of about 7 to 8 hours, knowing absolutely nothing about AI. And I put it all together in one night. It was all free. I didn't spend a single dime to get any of that made. So imagine if I know nothing and I'm working off of only free programs, which is the lower quality of these programs, and I could do that in one night. Imagine someone who actually knows what they're doing. Imagine somebody who has the higher levels of these programs, the paid versions of several of these AIs. Can you imagine what you could do with that? I think the future, the potential is enormous, and Hollywood is rightly concerned and afraid. By the way, you can let me know later whether you like or hate my foray into the artwork in trying to do AI. If you loved it, you hate it, you think I didn't know what I was doing, or I did it beautifully, you can let me know, and I'm happy to hear the criticisms of my efforts at art. I screwed up, I'm sure. I'm sure there are many people who could do it better, but let me know. Thank you. So Mary says that she thought it was nice. Mike Bowie says he thought it was awesome. Fantastic. Thank you for that, folks. But let's get into the regular show. So that's AI. And when people are talking about AI, what's the future? That gives you a real world example of what you can see coming forward in terms of programs, in terms of audio, and in terms of politics, in terms of messaging, movies. These are some of the things we're going to start seeing. And I think it will be good because more people will be able to express themselves that couldn't do it before. You're going to see more stories, more news, not just news, but movies that are going to be created because people aren't restricted by Hollywood and Hollywood's absolute demand to obey the progressive left-leaning agenda. You no longer have to march lockstep with the unions and with both the unions like SAG and the Screen Actors Guild, the Screenwriters Guild. You don't have to be part of that to be able to tell a story, to tell the story you want to tell, to create the story that you want to tell. So it may be very interesting to see what the future is going to be in terms of the art, in terms of the expression we're going to see out there. But let's take a look at, so that's one aspect, and that's something that's pretty popular right now. Let's talk about what's happening internationally. For those who are not familiar with the program, we often do a segment at the beginning of the show talking about what's happening around the world and how that's going to be affecting us here in the United States. And there's a big impact that's going to be coming to the United States. Starting off with North Korea. We have been following this since February of 2021. We have seen a massive increase in the aggression that is coming from North Korea that's going to be affecting the United States. It's part of the militarization in Southeast Asia. It's part of the reason why we're seeing China get ready to go to war by all indications. It's why Japan is building its first army since 1945. And what we saw is most recently, yesterday, it was reported that North Korea has vowed again to destroy and annihilate the United States. They say that the United States will be terminated within this century, that at some point The United States, we're not just going to lose our position as the leader in the world, we're going to be removed from the world. This is the same kind of talking points that we hear from Iran, that Iran since 1980 has been telling us they want to eliminate America. Mind you, this includes the progressives, this includes Democrats, it includes libertarians, it includes the Green Party, it includes socialists. No matter what your political ideology is, they want to kill you because you're an American, because you have freedoms and they don't want you to have them. And so we are seeing this. These guys are telling us they are building up to attack America at some point. And we believe on this channel that it's probably going to be late 2027, early 2028, based on the way that South Korea is becoming a military arms dealer, a leader in the world, the number 4 in the world. We're seeing Japan with its military, Philippines, everyone's militarizing. Now, and you see here it's quoted, should the U.S. choose to offend North Korea, they will annihilate us by using all their military power that they have gathered so far. They're talking about all the weapons. Now, remember, there is no peace with North Korea. Right at this second, the United States is still technically at war with North Korea. Okay, Joe Biden, for all of his talk about being a uniter, that he knows all of the world leaders and that they respect him. Kamala Harris going to South Korea twice. What has been the net effect? Well, to be honest, they don't care. They're looking to bomb us. They know that this is the 70th anniversary, 70 years that the United States has been in a ceasefire with North Korea, and North Korea is ready to go to war. In fact, we know that in just this year, 2023, since the beginning of the year, there have been 22 missiles that have been fired. ICBMs, missiles, cruise missiles that have been fired off by North Korea. And I want you to check this out. This is the chart. So 23 missiles in 2023 alone puts that at about, I believe it would be right about here. So the last time that we saw this kind of level, this exceeds what we saw under the Trump administration. This goes back to about 2015. Okay? This tells you how little respect North Korea has for the United States. And mind you, again, you didn't hear this in MSNBC, CNN, ABC News, the New York Times. They didn't tell you that these missiles have been going off, just like they didn't tell you that there were well over 100 missiles fired, missiles, ICBMs, nuclear-capable weapons, fired by North Korea in 2022 alone. Right now, North Korea has fired more missiles under the Biden-Harris administration than any other president in their 4-year term combined. In fact, you can look at most presidents in 8 years have not had North Korea be as aggressive as what we have seen in 3 years, in 2.5 years of the Biden-Harris administration. Now that's important because what you also didn't hear about, and it should come up, there it is. Sorry for the background noise. This is New York City for you folks. So North Korea, just a couple of days ago, fired two short-range ballistic missiles, endangering and threatening South Korea, threatening Taiwan, threatening Japan, increasing the tensions and making it more likely that there is going to be a war in Southeast Asia again. So we're getting close to another war, and you're not being told about this. This is something that you're not hearing from the major news media in the United States. Why? because you might think that the Biden-Harris administration has failed in their job because Kamala Harris didn't get the job done. Joe Biden hasn't gotten the job done. And because you might consider that to be a reality, because that's the truth, you're not supposed to know about this news. You're not supposed to think about this. The answer is forget about it. It's not important. You don't need to know. Everything's fine. It's rainbows and sunshine as they're firing missile after missile, telling us they are getting ready to go to war, that they want to destroy America, to remove America from the face of the earth. Folks, I don't care what you want to believe. The fact is, we're not prepared and we're in trouble. We are in deathly trouble. Mike Bowie mentions this is along with, 345 million arms aid to Taiwan. That's right. Sorry, there's a lot of noise in the background. We're spending huge amount. We're spending hundreds of millions of dollars for the Ukraine. We're spending hundreds of millions, actually Ukraine billions of dollars. We're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on the Taiwan. Meanwhile, what we are hearing in Taiwan, is that they're not ready. That this is war that is coming and we're not prepared properly. China does not care. China is not afraid of the Biden-Harris administration. They're not afraid of progressives or the Democrats. They are getting ready for war, and they're using North Korea to make this clear. And we have been told, this isn't something that we didn't know. We had General Michael Minahan, who told us, Air Force General, told us, get ready. The war is coming. Mind you, what are we hearing? And I want you to see, this is from the Washington Post, okay? This came out yesterday, July 29th. And did in this article from the Washington Post, when they're telling us, they're doing a profile on this general. And I want you to understand, the Washington Post didn't tell you in this article, they do not describe what I've already shown to you. As they're going through and telling you about this one Air Force general, they didn't mention that there's 24 missiles have been fired this year. Sorry for that. That 24 missiles have been fired this year by North Korea. They didn't mention that over 100 missiles were fired in 2022. They don't mention that. The Washington Post just ignores everything that is happening with Taiwan, what is happening with North Korea, what's happening to Japan. They ignore all of that information so that they can say, well, this guy, he's a war hawk. See, the Washington Post is being very explicit here. They're trying to tell their Democrats, the progressives out there, they're trying to say, well, this is what we have to fix in our military. They're war hawks. They want to go to war. They're just bad guys. That's what this article from the Washington Post is about. That this general is a bad guy, that he needs to be removed, that no one else in the military agrees with him, but they won't tell you, why does he think that? Because the rest of the world sees and is talking about the fact that China is getting ready to go to war, that all of Southeast Asia is terrified of war, that there are problems and we are being threatened on a daily basis. And we are credibly threatened by North Korea, by Iran, by China. We are being threatened, and the left-leaning media wants you to think everything's perfectly fine. There is no problem. The only person who has a problem is obviously war hawks. They just want to go to war. And they're ignoring every other factor that's being pointed out to them. This is terrifying to me. I don't know what everyone else thinks. I'd love to hear what other people think. But this scares me. That we're being told, don't worry about it, it's okay. As we can see clearly, that's not the case. As we can clearly see, There is a growing problem. And the guys who are telling us, who are actually speaking up, who are not playing politics with our military, when they tell us the problem is real, well, they're the bad guys. The Washington Post is making sure you know that this is the bad guy, and you should be angry at him for telling you there is a problem. I disagree with that. Now, if someone wants to tell me, Mike, but you don't understand, fantastic, let's have that conversation. If there's anyone who wants to say, Mike, the Southeast Asia is not a problem, let's talk about Japan getting a military for the first time because they don't trust that Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, or Democrats are going to live up to the 1960 Japan-U.S. treaty, which is the reason why Japan hasn't needed an army since 1945. We can have that conversation. If there is an elected official in America that wants to tell me, well, Mike, Southeast Asia is not going to war, then tell me why South Korea is becoming the fourth largest weapons manufacturer in the world. They're amping up their ability to make weapons. And the Philippines is trying to get America to put back in a military base to protect them. Australia is building submarines, 30 of them, nuclear-powered, nuclear-capable submarines, because they are afraid of China. This is the reality that we are going through, folks. Oh, you can hear me fine over the traffic. Okay, I didn't know that. Thank you, but Mike Bowie mentions you can hear me fine over traffic. In my ear, it sounds a lot louder. So thank you for letting me know that. So I think this is important to really be aware of here. And it's not, and the thing that gets me upset, folks, is that the news media isn't talking about this. They don't want you to have a conversation. They don't want you to even know this is happening. The BBC, Japanese Times, Hindustan Times, Israeli Times, the newspapers around the world are talking about this. Every country in the world is talking about this. In Australia, New Zealand, Philippines, the Samoan Islands. You can go any country in Southeast Asia. They're talking about this is happening. In the United States, no, it's not news. That's not important. We don't need to talk about that. Let's talk about Hollywood. Let's talk about the strike with the SAG writer, the actors and writers strike. Is that really the most important thing that's happening? I'm more concerned about the next nuke that North Korea is about to shoot off that can reach the United States, even though we have a shield that they actually have enough nuclear missiles to be able to reach anywhere in America. And they have just promised to annihilate everyone. The progressives, the Democrats, and everyone else. You're not safe. This is a problem. And we're not being told about it. We're not seeing candidates who are running for elected office in Congress, in the Senate, who are running for president. They're not talking to us about this. You may say, Mike, I don't care about international policy. The reason why we care about it on this channel and why we keep telling you about what's happening is because it's affecting your life. If we have another regional war, if we have another Vietnam, this is going to affect your sons, your daughters, your moms, your dads, your grandkids, your grandparents. This is going to be huge. And that's at the same time that we have the Ukraine conflict, which I am very sure is going to escalate and become even more of a problem. We're going to see another Vietnam in Ukraine. We're going to be there just like in Afghanistan. We're talking about another decade, maybe two, in that region fighting this war. It's not going to end. We were promised it would last a month. Well, here we are, and it's 2023, and it's still going. And there's no end in sight. So we should be having these conversations. Our elected officials should be talking to about this, and we should see the mainstream news media covering this, telling us what to prepare for. But instead, you have the Washington Post attacking the very same generals that are trying to protect us, that are saying, get ready, be prepared. And then you have to wonder, our allies are watching this, whether it's in the UN or NATO or in Southeast Asia, whether it's Japan, South Korea. All of our allies are watching this and they're saying, let me see. So America, under the Biden-Harris administration, abandoned 30,000 Americans. That's a fact. That's not a guess. It's not someone making this up. We abandoned 5,000 Americans to this day in Afghanistan. We abandoned 10,000 Americans to this day in the Ukraine. To this day, we have abandoned 15,000 Americans this year, 2 months ago, in the Sudan. We don't talk about, and the news media doesn't talk about it. They don't mention Afghanistan. They don't mention Americans in Ukraine. And they don't mention Sudan at all. They just stop talking about it. Our politicians just stopped talking about it. The Americans didn't come home. They're being tortured right now. The CIA has admitted, the Department of Defense has stated, and the State Department have confirmed that there are hundreds of Americans who are being tortured right now. American citizens are being tortured by ISIS and Al-Qaeda right now. Joe Biden won't tell you about it. Kamala Harris doesn't even know about it. The news media won't talk about it. But we've shown you this on this program 2 months ago. We have been consistently talking about this. We're pretty much the only political commentary out there that is tracking this internationally and talking about it here in the United States to let you know what's coming up and how badly the Democrats, the progressives, don't care. They have zero empathy. If you're not in their political advantage, if it's not helpful for them to protect you, if you don't happen to be Brittany Griner, they don't care about you. If you're not Megan Rapinoe, who is absolutely disgusted with America, that she's stepping on the American flag. No, I didn't forget. 2019, it was Megan Rapinoe who was more than happy to step all over the American flag. We've shown you the video several times. You've seen it. She's stepping on the American flag because she doesn't care. She doesn't like America as it is. She's progressive. And we're more concerned about her retiring, and we're more concerned about getting Brittany Griner, an admitted criminal. She's a criminal. She got prosecuted. She was convicted justly because she's a criminal. She brought drugs into a nation she couldn't bring them to. She knew it. And because she was gay, and because she's a basketball star, and because she was black, she thought she was above the law. Because progressives don't think the laws apply to them. They apply just to you. And she went out there, she got rightly convicted. And the Biden administration bent over backwards to get her back home as soon as possible. There are 30,000 Americans they didn't do anything like that for. There are 30,000 American citizens who are right now being in danger or actively tortured, and they got Brittany Griner home. Yay. Megan Rapinoe, she's retired. Aren't you happy? Let's talk about that. But don't think about all the Americans they threw under a bus right this second. It's very upsetting to me. Now, maybe you think I'm wrong. Maybe you say, Mike, that's not the most important story for Americans to be concerned with. We don't have to talk about those 30,000 Americans. We don't have to talk about the militarization of Southeast Asia. We don't have to talk about the negative impression in the world, the lack of trust of our allies with America. Maybe you say that. But I will tell you that every single time that we see that we're not talking about this, what we see happen is that the world gets that much more dangerous. That our enemies, that our nations that would take advantage of us, are getting more and more brazen. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about here. Let's go back to this is China and Taiwan. Well, the United States is sending military aid to Taiwan. And what did China do? This isn't going to stop us. The United States, the Biden-Harris administration, just because you gave Taiwan some money does not mean that they're not going to continue to move forward. That they plan to have war in Southeast Asia. And handing out what is effectively a couple of rockets is not going to stop them. They don't care. They're not impressed. They're not afraid. And they have no reason to be. Because they don't think Joe Biden has the balls, that Kamala Harris doesn't have the balls to stand up and protect our allies. Because we won't even protect our own people. I think that's a massively important thing to talk about. And I'd love to hear from any politician in America, anyone who's elected, anyone who's a potential candidate, tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why we don't need to talk about this. And you can call in to 607-242-9247. Folks, the phone is on. Can you see it? Yeah, there it is. The phone is on. We're able to take your calls. I believe, let me correct that, I believe we're in the new studio right now. So I believe we can take your calls at this moment and to hear what you have to say. Am I wrong? Is it not important to be worried about whether or not we're telling our allies, forget the enemies, that we're telling our allies that we are willing to stand up for freedom around the world and that we will protect our own people as well as them. Because what they're hearing right now is we won't protect them because we won't protect our own people. And that's why we're seeing the world get crazy. China is telling Taiwan they don't believe that America will stand up because America won't stand up for its own people. They ignore their own people. They throw them under a bus. They just forget about them. And China is telling Taiwan, guess what? America will forget about you unless this is going to get them votes. Unless it's going to get votes for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they don't care. They will forget about you in the middle of the night, throw you under a bus. And we know China is saying they're going to keep going. They're not going to stop. Mind you, again, you have to go to Politico. You have to look overseas. You're not going to see this news on MSNBC. You're not going to see this on CNN. You're not hearing about this in the New York Times. They don't want to have this conversation with you. They don't want you to know that this is happening. Again, I'm going to the left-leaning media. And people want to tell me, but Mike, you just don't understand because we're prepared. Are we? That our government's doing the right thing. They're going to protect you. Well, let me make it simple. I did a 1-minute video. I want you to watch this, folks. I'm going to show you this. This is a 1-minute video. This is a short, okay? This happened 4 days ago on July 26th in our Senate. In the House of Representatives. Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. He's in charge of the Department of Homeland Security. He's in charge of making sure that the southern border is secure. His job is to get rid of illegal aliens. And in particular, he's supposed to stop terrorism and terrorists entering the United States. I think it's one of the most important jobs that we could possibly have. The reason why we have a Department of Homeland Security is because of terrorists 9/11 attacking and killing thousands of American citizens. That's why the Department of Homeland Security exists. That's his job. And part of that job means make the border secure. That's supposed to be his job. And when we hear from Democrats, they care. They're here to protect us. They're trying to make sure we're safe. They're going to do their job. Okay, I want you to see something that's very simple, folks. Again, this is 1 minute. And watch this. Imagine if the government knew that the risk of 9/11 increased, not percent, 46 times.
Okay, for the record, in fiscal year, let's say 20, you had 3 at the southwest border encounters with people on the terrorist watch list. So far this year, it's 140. Can you give
Let me stop right there for a second. Let me stop it right there. Real simple. So in 2020, there were 3 terrorists, three people on the terrorist watch list, which for the United States government is the same thing as being a terrorist. Whether they are or aren't doesn't matter. They're the same thing. So there are 3 terrorists that entered the United States through the southern border to threaten Americans, to potentially commit acts like 9/11. So 3 potential 9/11s entered the United States in 2020. That's bad. That's bad. But in 2022, there were 98 known or suspected terrorists that entered America through the southern border. These are the people that we caught. God knows how many came into America that we didn't catch. But there were 98 that we caught in 2022. In 2023, there was another, and we are now, at this moment, 7 months into 2023, we have hit 140. That is a 46 times increase. 46 times. 46,000%, 4,600% from 2020 to 2023. That's 2.5 years under the Biden-Harris administration because we have a wide open border. That is a fact. It's not an impression. It's not a guess. It's not partisan. That is the fact. The news media doesn't want to tell you this. The news media doesn't want to cover this. MSNBC will not tell you this. CNN, the New York Times, Washington Post. They don't want to tell you this. They don't want you to talk about this. They don't want you to consider this. Think about it. It went up 43% in 7 months. That's how many threats of 9/11 you're facing right now. Let's go on. Again, this is short, 1 minute.
give us the whereabouts of those 140?
Congressman, let me say this. The safety and security of the American people is our highest
So
priority.
prove it to me.
Imagine if the government didn't know where 140 potential 9/11s were at this moment.
140 people on the terrorist watch list so far this year. For the record, would you please give us the status of each of those individuals?
Congressman, I would be pleased to provide you with that information with respect to the individuals encountered at the southwest border.
You don't have to imagine because the Biden-Harris administration doesn't care. Imagine if the government... Okay, I want to be clear about this, folks. I'm not picking on... let's see, Mary says, because they know they can get away, they can get in. It's disgusting, 140. Yes, it's absolutely disgusting. And they can do this because no one's talking about it. Because no one wants to secure the border. Because it's international policy. It's talking about more, it's not just domestic, it's international. And we don't talk about that in American news. You're not going to see that in 30 seconds on your nightly news. They don't want to have this conversation. Your local nightly news, they don't want to have this conversation. The national nightly news, they don't have time to spend 1 minute to tell you what I've just shown you. 1 minute. If I'm playing the game like the news media likes to play, and I'm doing politics in 1 minute, I just showed you a congressional hearing that took place on July 26th. You can go to C-SPAN, you can see the entire thing for yourself. I'm not hiding it from you. You can go to C-SPAN, you'll see the entire conversation. And you can see that Alejandro Mayorkas was asked 5 times by 5 different members of Congress. In these clips alone, you can see he was asked back to back within 5 minutes twice, where are the 140 terrorists? What have you done? Have you removed, have you kicked out of the country any of the terrorists? He could have said 1, he could have said 5, he could have said that they're pending, that we have them in jail waiting to be kicked out of the country, that they've been detained. No, his answer is, I have no idea. That's what he said. When he says, I will get you the numbers, that is the way that the United States federal government says, I don't know. When they say, I will get you the numbers, he knew he was walking in front of Congress. He knew the questions they were asking. They sent him a letter saying, we want to know this number. We want an answer to this question. He knew they were going to be asking him this. And his answer was, I'll get back to you. I'll find out. So that he can send a private letter that will not be released to the public, that the New York Times won't quote, that that NBC and CNN, they're not going to show you a copy of what his response is 2 months from now. They're just going to ignore it. And meanwhile, 140 terrorists are running around America right now. 140 potential 9/11s. Attacks on the Pentagon, attacks on the Twin Towers, attacks across this nation. And if you want to tell me, Mike, but that's just not possible, that can't possibly happen. Why not? Because they can't get into a car, fill it up with fertilizer, and drive it into a building, as we have seen people do in America. You mean they can't do that? You mean they can't use a car like we have seen done in Las Vegas in 2017, in Manhattan in 2017, that they just got into a car and drove through crowds of people? We've seen that in 2020. We saw that in 2021. We saw that in 2023. And you mean a terrorist won't do that? Do you remember the Waukesha parade? The guy at Thanksgiving, the black supremacist who just drove a truck through a parade? And you mean to tell me that a terrorist can't do that? That of the 140 that are in America right now, running around loose on the American people, that they can't just rent a car, not even a truck, not a pickup, just a regular car, and just drive through Manhattan traffic, drive down the main street of your town and just run people over? You can't tell me that's not possible, which is why we should be talking about it in the nightly news. This should be an issue for the American people. We should be demanding that Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, should know this answer. He should be able to protect the American people or assure us that we're safe. That's all he has to do. Say, I know where all 140 people are. They're in a jail cell waiting to get on a plane to go back to their home countries. That they are detained. I don't care. Even if he told me that they are detained in a hotel, a 4-star hotel in Manhattan, sipping on champagne, waiting for a plane to take them back to their home countries, I'm okay with that, as long as you tell me there are FBI agents standing over them, making sure that they cannot kill American citizens, and we're going to kick them out of this country. Maybe that's them right now. You can hear, listen to that. That's the fire department. God help me. It could be one of the fire trucks you're hearing right now. That could be one of the 140 terrorists that have decided that they wanted to kill Americans, because Alejandro Mayorkas doesn't know where they are, and the Biden-Harris administration doesn't care. Because if they cared, they'd have an answer. They'd be able to give you an answer so that you could sleep at night safe. But instead, their answer is, for you to sleep at night safe, the better way to do that is to not tell you anything, to pretend it doesn't exist, to pretend that they have everything under control, even though they can't answer the most simple of questions. Mike Bowie says, and still no one questions the the $17 million Biden has pocketed from China and the Ukraine. Well, I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to the sweetheart deal with Hunter Biden. I'm going to get to talk about the investigation of the Bidens and the fact that we know, and there's arguments that it could be $17 million, but we know that there's at least $5 million that has found its way into the bank accounts of Joe Biden starting in 2015 when he was still vice president under Barack Obama. So yeah, there's political peddling, potentially political influence peddling. That's a problem. That's a big problem. We should be concerned about that. But it goes well beyond that. So I agree with you, Mike. We should be talking about that, and I will be talking about that. But I want you to understand the magnitude of the problem. And the news media can't say it's too big a story to talk about. We can't make it simple for people. We can't shrink it down. I just took a congressional hearing. I took a 5-minute question and answer period. Actually, it was about 7 minutes long. And I shrunk it down to 1 minute so it would fit on the nightly news. If I can do that, they can do it too. They have tens of thousands of people working at CNN and MSNBC and CBS, ABC, the New York Times. They have thousands of people. I'm one guy in the middle of moving from upstate New York into the Bronx, and I was able to put this together in the space of a couple of days this week so that you would be able to see it, so that you knew what was going on. If I, as one man, can do that, they can't say that there are tens of thousands of reporters, journalists, and TV anchors can't do the same thing. That they could tell you they don't care. That's the truth. And it's a horrible truth. It's a terrible truth. It's a scary truth. But with all of their money, all of their technology, all of their employees, they could tell you, but they won't, because they don't care. Because that's not going to get them reelected. It's not going to get their political ideology elected. By the way, I want you to understand something else about this. I think it's very important. This video, as you can see, this video has been seen on YouTube 86 times. Now, I want you to understand, it's been seen on on YouTube 86 times on YouTube, because YouTube is restricting this. It has been seen, this video, and I want you to see this real time. Come on. There it is. This is the same video right here. This is the same. It has 201 likes. It's been seen 86 times on YouTube. That's it. YouTube has only let about 100 people see this. 100 people on YouTube. 200 people liked it on Instagram. 4,804 people have seen this same video on Instagram. And YouTube showed it to 100 people. Think about that. I want you to think about that. That shows you. Mike Bowie says, did I use AI? No, that wasn't AI. That was going to Forbes. That was going to C-SPAN. That was watching the congressional hearing on July 26th of 2023 to hear from the Department of Homeland Security talking about the United States border. That's it. I didn't need to make it up. I didn't need AI. This is the government. It's that easy. And here it is that we are watching that the social media do not want you to know. It's not just the New York Times. It's not just the Democratic Nationalists, the Democratic National Socialists. It's not just them. It's also watching in social media. YouTube said no one should see this because it might make people less likely to vote for Democrats in 2024. On Instagram, where they're not paying attention to politics, it gets almost 5,000 people are concerned, and now they are aware and they're paying attention. The only reason why Instagram had Instagram, which isn't political. People don't go to Instagram for politics. But 5,000 people saw that and said, I'm very concerned. I'm interested. I want to be aware. And on YouTube, that reaches billions of people. They want to tell you that, no, 85 people wanted to watch that. It's just not a popular topic. They're lying to you. They're lying to your face. Look at this. 4,804 people, nearly 5,000 people on Instagram. If they tell you no one is interested on YouTube, they are lying to your face. It is censorship. They are trying to hide the truth from you. You're not supposed to talk about this. And that's the problem. They do not want you to talk about this. They want you to be deaf, dumb, and blind. And they want you to vote Democrat, whatever it takes to promote Democrats. If there is anyone in the Democratic Party that disagrees with me, call into 607-242-9247. If there's anyone that thinks, Mike, you don't understand, fantastic. Call into 607-242-9247. Look, if you have watched this program before, you will be treated with the utmost of respect. We will not embarrass you. We're not here to attack you. Yes, I am passionate. I believe in the issues. I talk about this because it's important, because we're talking about people's lives, not just economics, not whether or not you're being poor, but when we have 140 terrorists running around America who are coming from countries like North Korea that just said they're going to annihilate America. When they're coming from countries like Iran, they're being backed and trained by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is from Iran, the greatest source of terrorists in the world. And when they're doing that, I'm worried about you and me. And YouTube saying, yeah, but they don't need to know about that. YouTube doesn't care about you. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, they don't care about you. Jamal, what is it? It's Jamal Jeffries, the Speaker of the House. Hakeem Jeffries, the Speaker of the House, who is also the president of the leader of the Progressive Caucus in Congress, does not care. AOC, as much as she wants to talk about, we need to green the planet because she's all into environmental justice. Yeah, but she doesn't care about 140 terrorists entering America. She's busy talking about we need a Green New Deal, but she doesn't care about an open border. She doesn't care that people are being put into danger. I cannot make it more clear. I can't say that more honestly and directly. And again, you don't have to believe me. After we're done with the show, you can go directly to C-SPAN and you can see it for yourself. We will have links in the description so that everything that we are touching on, every article, you can see it for yourself. You can read it for yourself so that you can confirm for yourself. Because I'm not a progressive. I don't expect you to just believe whatever I say. I don't expect that just because I'm black and Hispanic that you must believe me, that you must blindly affirm everything I say. No, I ask you to critically think about what I've said. I want you to double check the sources. I want you to read the articles and come up with your own decision. Because you're an American citizen, because you're a human being, and I respect you as an individual, that has a mind and can make your own conclusions. Whether you agree with me or not, that's not important to me. The fact that you are informed and you can make your own decisions, that's important to me. But progressives, the news media, social media giants, they don't think that. They think you are a category and your equity, and they don't think you are human. They treat you like a child. They treat you subhuman. And yes, Mary, I think I mentioned it before, but I agree with you, Mary. They do not want us to know about this. Just like, think about this, folks. Since February of 2022, we have mentioned virtually every single episode, every single live stream that we have done in the last year and a half. We have told you about the global food crisis. There is currently 30% less food in the world. It's part of the reason why about 15 to 20% of the shelves in stores are empty right now. Why food has gone up 18.5% under the Biden-Harris administration. That's right. Food inflation is 18.5%. So, and this is coming from the St. Louis Fed. This is coming from the Federal Reserve. This is the government data itself. Food inflation is 18%. And we've been telling you for the last year and a half that the inflation was going to get this bad. We literally said it was going to be in double digits. We literally said it would be at least 15%. It's 18%. And the thing that's important about that is it's getting worse. See, there isn't anyone in the U.S. news media who is telling you, hey, by the way, we're about to see more food inflation. We're going to see that currently there was a, let me go back. This is from the BBC, okay? We have to go outside the United States to be able to see this news. The grain deal, there was a deal, even though there's a war going on between Ukraine and Russia. Russia made a deal to allow some of the grain, some of the fertilizer that is necessary for the world to stop starvation, to end food riots. They were letting out some food so they can go to Africa and many other nations. And to also lower the price of food from skyrocketing. Okay, and that deal ended July 20th, actually July 17th. July 17th, that deal ended, and the amount of food in the world shrank overnight. And the price of food went up immediately. The cost of food started going higher that day. Mainstream news media didn't talk to you about it. Mainstream media didn't tell you that suddenly there's going to be less food in the world. They didn't tell you that. They thought, you don't need to know. That's international news. That doesn't affect American citizens, even though it's going to affect how much food is in the store and how much you're going to pay for it. Poor people are going to suffer because there's less food and it will cost more, and they can't afford it. That's poor people in America. God forbid we're talking about Africa. We're talking about Southeast Asia. We're talking about the poorer nations in Europe. Forget about the rest of the world. I'm just talking about the poor people in America. So when you tell me it's international news, it doesn't matter. I'm telling you, you're lying to my face because it affects the going to the grocery store and buying food. You just can't say that. Not honestly, not realistically, because they don't expect you to question this. They expect you to obey. And I am showing you that this is from the BBC. 57% of the foodstuffs from the Ukraine over the last year, while this war is going on, went to developed countries. 57% of the food that left Russia because of this deal, that got out of the Ukraine, It went to China, an ally of Russia. They went to Spain. It went to Turkey, also a sometimes ally of China and Russia. And it went to Italy. That's it. That's half the food in the world. Half the food, not in the world, in the food that came from the Ukraine to feed the world went to those nations. And the rest went to developing nations. Where's the rest of the food? Well, the prices went up. They skyrocketed. And you can tell me, Mike, well, it's just greedy corporations. You could say that, and you'd be lying. Everyone who tells you, well, it's just because of government greed. It's just because of the greed of corporations. Kellogg's is just trying to make profits. Kellogg's doesn't have the food. There's not enough food. That's just the honest answer. There's just not enough food. We're not feeding people in Africa. We're not feeding people in Western Europe. We're not feeding people in South America. That's the reality. That's the truth. It's not because Kellogg's wants to have more profit. There's no grain. And we're being told that. We know this. Again, I'm showing you from the BBC. That's their reporting. They are a left-leaning news service. I know Ground News says they're neutral. No, they're not. The BBC is left-leaning. But whichever way you want to look at it, international reporting is telling you the food isn't reaching some of the poorest people in the world. If you want to tell me progressives and Democrats are all about feeding poor people, the evidence is saying no. They're blaming it on corporations. People are starving. And now they won't even tell you that next month, matter of fact, by now, if you go to the store now, the prices of food have gone up. The cost of your bills to feed yourself and your family has gone up, and it's going to go higher. I'm warning you. This is a public service announcement. I'm trying to get you prepared and ready. The cost of food to feed your family, to feed yourself, to feed your pets is about to go. If it hasn't already, and it probably has, the price is going to go higher. For bread, for cereal, for flour, it's going to go higher. Start buying more, because this isn't the end. Now, people are going to point to that and they're going to say, but Mike, you just don't understand. No, I do understand, because it's not just from July 20th. We also got the news. This is from Deutsche Welle. This is the German news agency. See, unlike in the United States, Germany was telling its people. This is from 9 days ago. 9 days ago. It was July 21st, and we saw that the German news, Deutsche Welle, was busy telling its people that there will not be enough grain, that they need to be prepared, that the price of food is going to go higher. You didn't see that in MSNBC. You didn't see that in CNN. You didn't hear that on YouTube and Facebook unless you're watching this channel. I'm sure there's a few other channels besides us, but that's it. It takes me, one guy working a company, as opposed to the tens of thousands of people who are in the government, in the Democratic Party, the tens of thousands of people who work for the left-leaning news media, and all the tens of thousands in left-leaning social media. Those companies didn't care to tell you that the cost is going to go higher. But here I am to tell you about that. And by the way, and you know what the answer is right now? The answer that came from Vladimir Putin, and this was that was 2 days ago. 2 days ago, this is the answer that Vladimir Putin gave to the world.
Мы будем готовы уже в ближайшие месяцы, в ближайшие 3-4 месяца безвозмездно предоставить Буркина-Фасо, Зимбабве, Мали.
He was talking, Vladimir Putin is talking to Burkina Faso. Why do we know Burkina Faso? Because they just had a coup attempt. Because ISIS and Al-Qaeda went into Burkina Faso approximately 9 months ago and tried to take the country over. Why did they do that? Because the Biden-Harris administration in 2021 gave the keys to the Taliban, and the Taliban let them out. Taliban let all the terrorists out. And the terrorists went into Africa, and they went into Burkina Faso, and they opened and they tried to take over the government because they believe in socialism. They believe in repression. They support Russia and China. And so he is telling those terrorists that he's going to feed them, that he's going to make sure they get food. See, this is why the news media doesn't want to tell you about this. He's talking to Zimbabwe, Mali, Somalia. Let's go on.
Сомали, Центральноафриканской Республики, Эритреи по 25-50 тысяч тонн зерна. Обеспечим и бесплатную доставку этой продукции потребителям. Мы будем готовы уже в
Look, I don't care how happy they look. They don't have to look happy. They don't have to be jumping up and down for joy. That's not meaningful. Here's the important thing about what you just saw. Russia is telling Africa that if you're one of our friends, if you have supported Russia, they're going to give you free food. The rest of the world isn't getting this food. You just saw. We just showed you. The rest of the world is telling you that the price of food is going to go up, that they are being cut off. Germany, Spain, Europe is being cut off. All of Africa, except for the friends of Russia, getting cut off. South America, cut off. The United States, cut off. They're telling the rest of the world that if you're not supporting Russia, you're not going to get food. But the people who do support Russia, they're going to get food for free. Is it enough food? No. But it's food for free when everyone else is getting nothing. And you mean to tell me you don't think that's going to hit you in the pocket and cost you more money? This is going to increase the amount of money it costs for you to feed your family. And this is something, July 27th, the major news media didn't think it was important for you to know that. They didn't think that you should be able to feed your family or be prepared to feed your family. This is insulting, folks. This is dangerous. I really do believe it. And if you think I'm somehow making this up, again, this is coming. So I've shown you Deutsche Welle. I've shown you the news from South Africa. Here's the news. It's coming from Politico. African leaders leave the summit without a grain deal or a path to end to the war, but they did get a promise to be able to get 725,000 tons of food. They're going to be getting this food to each of these nations. I'm not making it up, folks. I don't have to make this stuff up. It's real. Mike Bowie says, depopulation. Everything is turned into a crisis to use as a leverage point. Well, I believe you, Mike, and I agree to an extent. It's terrifying. But see, now you could take this as negative news, or you could take this news as positive. See, I want to be very clear for people here. You could look at this and say, Mike's just an evil Republican, or you could say, Mike is telling me that the price of food is going to go up, and I should go out and buy 10% more food for my family now, so I'll save money and I'll have extra food. That's the easy, And that's the easy answer right now. That's the simple solution. You can go out, get the food for your family, and in the next month, the next 2 months, when food is scarcer and it's more expensive, you'll have the food to feed your family, and you'll save some money. See, that's why I'm telling you about it. That's the MSNBC, CNN, the mainstream news media. If they didn't want to talk about the politics that the Biden-Harris administration has failed, that they're not telling They're not trying to help feed the world. If they don't want to go through that angle, they could just make it as simple as, by the way, we want to feed you. We want you to be prepared. Don't panic. No need to panic. We're not going to run out of food in America. You may run out of food in Sri Lanka. You may run out of food in Nigeria. You may run out of food down in Ecuador. But you're not going to run out of food in America. It's just going to be more expensive. And you may not have as much food or as many choices as you used to have. See, that's what the news media could do to tell you and to protect you, to help make sure that you're feeding your family. They're not. That's not what they're doing. They're just telling you, shut up, don't talk about it. That's what they're doing. See, how compassionate are they if their answer is, we don't need to talk about this. Oh, by the way, your family's starving. When they could say, hey, by the way, let's talk about this for a minute so that you can be prepared to take care of your family. I tell you, it is evil. And that's the two ways you could look at this. News media doesn't have to agree with me. By the way, again, let me say it. On this channel, you're not required to agree with me. You don't have to believe everything that we believe. You're more than welcome to call in at any moment, to call into 607-242-9247 and to say, Mike, I disagree. In heart, in part, in whole, whatever. You can say, Mike, but you just don't understand. Okay, fantastic. Tell me why. Let's have that conversation. Because I think I'm helping you when I tell you food prices are going to go higher. The 18.5% in food inflation is not the top, and it's going to go higher, and you can do something about it right now. That's what I believe. The Biden administration doesn't believe that. Kamala Harris doesn't believe that. Hakeem Jeffries doesn't believe that. AOC doesn't believe that. NBC News, ABC News, the entire left media doesn't share that point of view. They don't think you can do anything. They just want you to starve. And I'm upset about that. I'm very upset about that. But, you know, folks, you can tell me, Mike, I disagree with you. But all of this is adding up to something very simple. And the simple answer is that as we see more and more of these things, America is allowing its people to starve. This is what the world is seeing. America doesn't care about telling the people to prepare for higher food prices. Germany is. I just showed you, Germany was telling people 9 days ago to start getting ready. Food prices are going to go up. There's going to be less food. Here it is. We're seeing the rest of the world prepare. Africa knows that most of the countries in Africa, the people who aren't friends with Russia or China, they're not going to get food. They know that. But you're not hearing that in the United States. So when we see our allies see, we don't care about our own people. When 30,000 Americans are abandoned, even as they're being tortured, well, then the world says America doesn't care. And that's why there's an American nurse reported today that she's in Haiti. We're not talking about in the Middle East. She wasn't over in Europe. She wasn't trying to invade Iran or North Korea. This American nurse was in Haiti trying to teach kids how to read. That's the story. This is the news that CNN will tell you about. This woman was in Haiti trying to teach kids to read. And because no one believes that Biden or Kamala Harris care, because they don't care about you as an individual, she got kidnapped. And that's why. See, this is how it's dangerous to you. This is what happens when international policy isn't talked about and when they don't have a plan and when they screw up. We see Americans get kidnapped around the world. People who are trying to help feed and teach children get kidnapped because everyone in the world says, well, the American government doesn't care. Biden, Harris, the Democrats, the progressives, they don't care. Now, I understand. You might look at me and say, but Mike, you may say you're a Democrat and that you care, that you want people to be fed around the world. Fantastic. That's not what the government's saying. That's not what the leadership of the Democratic Party, that's not what they're saying. That's not what the internet, the social media giants, that's not what they're saying. You as an individual, you may tell me, Mike, I want to feed the poor. Fantastic. I applaud you. I want to help you. Sure, let's feed as many poor people as we can. I'm happy with that idea. Let's feed every child in America. I'm more than happy to do that. Let's get the money together. Let's close some of these entitlements and let's actually use the money to feed them. Let's cut some of the money, if not all the money, going into the Ukraine so that we could make sure we can feed those kids. I'm happy. Let's have that conversation. But see, that's the thing. I'm having a conversation with you because you're an individual and I trust you to spend the money properly. I am willing to work with you to feed the kids, to feed people around the world. And the leaders of the Democratic Party, the leadership in America at this moment doesn't care. And that's why they don't want to talk to you about it. That's why they don't want you to know. If you think I am wrong, call in 607-242-9247. The phone line is on. Call in. Tell me, Mike, you're wrong. You misunderstood. You got it wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm happy to hear this. Come on, tell me. But I don't think you're going to be able to show me any evidence that proves me wrong. But I can show you lots of evidence that Americans are being endangered around the world on vacation, as they work in their jobs, as they're trying to help other people around the world. Americans are becoming a target. Their lives are in danger. And that threat has increased, just as it is increased here at home. Because even if you're not in Haiti, guess what? There are 140 terrorists in America right now, and they are threatening your life. And the Biden-Harris administration doesn't want to talk about it. The Department of Homeland Security under Alejandro Mayorkas doesn't want to talk about it. And the Department of Justice under Attorney General Merrick Garland is more concerned about punishing you for paying attention to what your kids are being taught in high school than he is about the terrorists that are running around America right now. Show me the evidence where that's not true. I'm happy to have that conversation, folks. See, that's what we do on this channel. We're showing you the evidence and we have that conversation. The rest of the news, oops, there we go. Lights, got to worry about the lights here. See, even though I just moved from upstate New York to the Bronx, even though I've just lost tons of money and I'm having a difficult time, I'm here doing this show every day. I'm trying to work this. My small business, this is a commitment. This is my passion. I lose money. I have lost money every single year for 17 years that I've been doing political commentary. I just lost my house. 95% of everything I own, actually 97% of everything I own, I just lost over the last 24 hours. It's gone forever. I'm never going to get it back. And I'm here with you right now to talk about the things that matter to American people. And CNN, that makes hundreds of millions of dollars, New York Times, that makes billions of dollars, the federal government that spends trillions of dollars, won't put the time in and the effort in to do what I'm doing right now. That should scare you. That should terrify you. They're not preparing you for a food shortage. They're not protecting you overseas. They're not protecting our allies, and that is making the world more dangerous. Is there anyone who wants to dispute that with me? I'm happy to have that conversation. If you think I'm wrong, I will be happy to answer your questions, to take that phone call. We're open. We're ready. But while we wait for the brave souls, and by the way, if you agree, you can call in too. If you have something else on your mind, you can call in. By the way, I do want to say, please, if you've made it this far, we've been on for, I don't know, an hour, hour and a half. Please do me a favor. Like, share, subscribe. That's all we ask for. Please consider, if you've made it this far, if you've learned things that you didn't know before in the news, if you have a different, you found out information that's going to help your life, it's educational, maybe it's entertaining, maybe you found it to be funny, I don't know. Like, share, subscribe. Let us be able to speak with more people around the world. I understand. YouTube, they don't want us to talk to anyone. That's why the same video, the same short that has been seen almost 5,000 times on Instagram has only been shortened to 85 people on YouTube. It's called censorship. We're not asking you to do anything crazy. Just like, share, and subscribe. That's it. We know there are people who want to hear these things. We know that because Instagram showed us there's 5,000 people that want to know this. YouTube says you can't tell them. I need you to get past the algorithm to be able to do that. Only you can do it with your like, your share, and your subscribe. Now, if you want to go even further than that, you can donate. You can either make a donation one time, or as you can see on the bottom of the screen, you can join our Patreon. It's $1.50 a month. $1.50. This isn't Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus. We're not trying to get tens and dozens of dollars out of your pocket every month that you're not going to use. Or God forbid, it's like Secret Wars, Secret Invasion on Disney that no one wants to see and is horrible. Like She-Hulk, like The Witcher Origins, these Velma, these programs that insult you. They insult your intelligence. They insult you for being a fan. I don't do that. We do about 30 hours of content per month. That's me. Me, and occasionally I have the J. Russ break where they volunteer to come in and do some shorts. We try and provide you we show you the links. We give you the information that no one else really wants to talk about. And we talk with you about it. That's worth $1.50, isn't it? $1.50. It's not even one cup of coffee once in a month. You can make that donation if you want. Join our Patreon. But that's enough of me trying to get some money now that I lost my house. Let's go on. Yes, I'm a little upset that I lost my house. But let's go on. And going back to Mary Mancini, yeah, that's another part of why did I leave upstate New York. I lost my house. But that's another story. So, that being said, but let's think about, so what are some of the things we are being told? And I'm getting to the domestic news. We're going to be talking about Hunter Biden and his sweetheart deal very shortly. We're going to be talking about some of the other things that are happening in the news, like Dianne Feinstein and the fact that she's a puppet. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I want you to understand, what is it that the mainstream news media is trying to focus on? What do they want you to pay attention to? They want you to pay attention to things like global warming, which is, it was global warming, then it's global cooling, and now it's called climate change. And they keep changing the meaning. They keep changing the definition over and over and over again. But by the way, the thing that they're not telling you about this, the thing that they're not sharing with you about this, geologist Professor Ian Plimer is telling you that the climate change movement, absolute nonsense, that it isn't real. When they tell you that we've hit the highest temperature we've ever seen on the planet Earth, they're not telling you the truth. When we look back in time, there's one thing that we see, and that is that carbon dioxide has never driven climate change. He's at the Institute of Public Affairs, a speech for freedom, and he's telling you this. It's public information, folks. It's public information. He's a geologist. Again, follow the science. The science is the answer. The science tells us that climate change, as described by the left, by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, not real. It's not scientific. They're not helping you. They're helping themselves. They're helping their buddies, their friends, the businesses. You know, this is why Nancy Pelosi has owned over $250,000 in the wind energy, into windmills, wind farms. She owns stock. It's exceedingly, she started buying it for $250,000. The price has gone up. She's making money off of this. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez makes money and donations off of this. You're not getting anything better. I don't know. And again, I'm only showing you what's in the news. Mary mentions that she's sorry to hear about us losing our house. Well, it's life. You know, it happened. Not happy about it, but I'm not going to let it stop me. I'm not going to let the downfalls in life. I understand. It's very difficult. People, see, this is something people don't know. Let me sidetrack here. Here's something personal. It's very difficult as you get older to get a job. Younger people who are watching this, you may not be aware of this. But as you get older, the opportunities to get a job get less and less, because businesses look at you and say, well, you're experienced. You've learned how to do things. You are too expensive to hire. And if you're going for a job that's lower, that will pay you less, like a more closer to an entry level job, they're going to say, but if you ever get another job offer, you'll leave. So they don't want to hire you because you're too experienced and therefore too expensive, or they expect that you're not going to stay because it's a low-level job. So as you get older, it's harder to get a job. I'm 55. Then add to that the fact that I'm political, which is bad. I mean, businesses, well, it's bad because I'm a Republican. I'm a black conservative Republican. And that is equal to being an Uncle Tom, according to the left. As if you look at some of the attack messages I get, that's evil. So that's a bad thing. So all the progressive business owners don't want to hire me. The Democrat business owners don't want to hire me. That's supposedly half of America. It's not. It's about a quarter of America. But they like you to feel like it's half of America. It's not. But it's a lot of people who own businesses. And that means I don't get to work with them. So suddenly it gets much, much harder. It is difficult. It is incredibly difficult to be black, a conservative, and to have experience, to have a couple of years in your life, to have some wisdom. It is very difficult. It is not an easy process, and anyone who tells you that it is lying to you. It is hard. It is a hard way to live life, but I choose to do that anyway. And that's part of the reason why I don't have a house anymore. And that's why my studio moved. But that's okay. My family has lived in the Bronx for 50 years. It's the location, the neighborhood that my family grew up for half a century. Yes, it's a ghetto now, but that's okay. I will continue to move forward every way we can. Now, I also wanted to, and I was talking about, we were just talking about green energy, the green energy movement. And I wanted to highlight something for you. See, it's not just that we have a geologist, Professor Ian Plimer, who is telling people at the Institute of Public Affairs at their event, he is there telling people that the science proves that the green movement is wrong, that they're lying to you. But we also have Senator John Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. And Senator John Kennedy is talking to the professor, this is Professor Jesse Keenan out of Tulane. And he's one of the activists for the green energy. And it's really interesting because in this 5.5-minute video that you probably never saw, that you did not hear about on CNN or MSNBC, that isn't being sent around throughout Instagram or all over Facebook, the thing that they don't want you to hear is this guy tells you, oh yeah, he wants green energy, and he wants companies, any business, universities, that if they get money from companies that get oil, any oil and gas companies that make a donation to politicians, to businesses, to schools and universities, that money should be sent back. No one should take the money. Except he takes the money for Tulane. His university, Tulane, is exempted for that. It's okay for Tulane, where he works, the school that he teaches at, they can keep $25,000 from oil and gas companies and other endowments. They can keep their gas money. He's not upset about that because that's putting money in his pocket. That's how he's making his daily bread and butter. He gets to live a very comfortable life, not just in terms of the world. As an American, he's making 2, 3, 4 times as much money as the average American to tell you you're living your life wrong. He gets to get paid to teach you how evil you are as an American citizen, and he's willing to take money from the people he calls demons and devils and bad guys, and he takes their money, puts it in his bank account, and feels great at night. It's okay. But you can't do that. You can't do that. You are the problem. He's able to take money from both ends. He can complain about it and he can get paid by the people he's complaining against. This is why we see that the green movement is so fake. Mike Bowie mentions, John Kerry says he doesn't own a private jet, but his wife does. Yeah. That's the thing. Again, they're playing with this. It's bad for you. You can't get onto a plane. You shouldn't be flying business first class. Everyone should be in economy class, except for the people who tell you that have their private jets that they fly around in. And I don't care. There is no private jet that's economy class. I'm sorry, that doesn't happen. So, whether it's his wife's jet or Bill Clinton's jet, it's a private jet. That is above first class. Again, this is how they get to treat themselves. You aren't being treated the same way because it's not about being fair to you. They lie to you on a regular basis. I'll give you another example. Here it is. The Heritage Foundation, because Bidenomics, you've heard about this. Bidenomics is so great for America that the Biden economic policies have been so great. Remember, they're so great that food inflation is up 18.5%. The inflation overall for the nation is up 17% since the day that Joe Biden got into office. Actually, from February, right after he got in. From February 2021 to today, 17% inflation, 18% food inflation. This is the great job that he's doing. And in fact, it's a little bit worse than I thought it was. Because according to the Heritage Foundation, the Biden-Harris economic policies, the progressive policies being pushed by Hakeem Jeffries and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar and Anna Presley are costing you $9,100. Chuck Schumer doesn't want to tell you that. Kirsten Gillibrand doesn't want to tell you that. Nancy Pelosi probably can't remember that. Dianne Feinstein fell asleep while we were talking about it. It's costing you $9,000 more, about 1/3 of the money that you make in it, that the average American makes in a year. That's going to taxes. That's going to the Biden-Harris administration. You're losing about 1/3 of all the money you make in a year. But Bidenomics is great. Yeah, Dark Brandon. Ooh, Bidenomics. It's such a great thing. Don't you know how wonderful it is? Look at your bank account and then tell me it's wonderful. Go to the store and buy food and tell me. Compare the food bill today versus the food bill you had 2 years ago. Tell me how great Bidenomics is. But they want to lie to you, and they are trying to tell you it's all great. It's rainbows and unicorns and it's sugar plum fairies. Vote Democrat 2024 because it's all good. Don't believe your eyes. Don't believe your bank account. Don't worry the fact that no one overseas believes this, that everyone in the world is saying there's a problem. Don't believe any of that. Just trust Joe Biden because someone gave him a cue card and he said, Bidenomics is good. He doesn't even know what Bidenomics is. I'm only trying to be honest with you folks. I'm just trying to give you real answers here. You may not agree with everything, but again, I'm showing you my sources. I'm going through the news articles. I'm doing what the news media is supposed to do, to have this conversation with the American public. And unlike New York Times, unlike MSNBC, unlike Josh Riley, the candidate for the New York 19th District, unlike so many of these Democrats and progressives, I'm actually willing to have the conversation with you directly, to talk with you. They're there to tell you just obey. They don't want you to have questions. They damn well tell you not to dare question them, that you're the problem if you question them. If you have a question about any of this, you're the problem. According to progressives and Democrats, you're the evil person. That must mean you're a Republican. You have a question. You have a question about inflation? You must be MAGA. You must be Republican. Since when did it become a Republican thing to say, hey, inflation's too high? To say that there's not enough food because there's not enough food in the world. That's not Republican. That's just reality. Why? But we can't ask questions. Hang on. So Mike Bowie says, interesting meme. If you can just print money, why do we have to pay taxes? That's an interesting meme. Let me read that again. Mike Bowie says, if you can just print money, why do we have to pay taxes? Well, to answer that for you, Mike, because at some point, inflation happens. At some point, the loans get called in and inflation makes your money worthless. You can print the money all day. Yes, you're right. And this is the thing that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez forgets to mention. And this is the part that the meme doesn't say directly. Yeah, it means that your money is worthless. You might as well have monopoly money. Again, Mike, I'm not attacking you. I'm talking about the meme and the fact that you'll hear Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, people who believe in modern monetary, modern monetary theory, MMT is what it is. Andrew Yang believes in this idea, that you can just print money forever and it doesn't matter. Yeah, look at the inflation. When Joe Biden passed his package, when Democrats made the deal to increase the national debt to $35 trillion, they guaranteed you that in a year and a half, you're going to have 7.5% to 8% inflation. Mark my words. Write it down on a calendar. Compare January 2023 to January 2025, you will find that there's going to be an increase of 7 to 8% inflation between now and then. That's money that's coming out of your pocket. That's food you're not going to buy. That's bills you're not going to pay. That's clothes that your kids are not going to get. And it's because of this, because of people who believe, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like Andrew Yang, that say, just print money forever. It'll never matter. They're liars. And so I wanted to make sure I answered that. But thank you for asking me the question, Mike. Thank you for bringing that up. I am happy to hear that. And by the way, folks, anyone at any time, you can call in to 607-242-9247. I know you hear me say this all the time throughout the show. Why? I don't ask you for money all the time throughout the show. I ask you for your opinion, to hear your voices. See, that's where the preference is for me. I want you to be involved. Whether you agree or disagree, I want to hear you being involved, not about getting money. And that's the difference between me and many politicians out there. But let me go further. So far we've been talking about how safe you are going to be, whether it's overseas or here in America. We've talked about the fact that the government is throwing you under a bus overseas and in America, and how our allies are reacting to that. We've done a public service announcement telling you that the cost of food is going higher and that you should prepare. Not panic, not a crisis, to prepare. That the cost of food is going to go higher even in America, so that you should buy 10% more. We've talked to you about the things that the news media, we've shown you exactly how the American news media is hiding information from you. Information that the rest of the world absolutely knows about, that they're talking about right now, but you aren't supposed to talk about it because you're an American, and it's going to affect you, and it might affect the way you vote. So you're excluded from the international conversation, and that means your life is in danger. And we're seeing how this is affecting things like the Green Movement. But that's not the only thing that it's affecting. Let me take a second here. This is going to be tricky, folks. This is going to be difficult to discuss. And no, I'm going to get to, again, I am going to talk about Dianne Feinstein. I am going to talk about what happened with Hunter Biden and how that's going to affect all of us. We're going to be here for a little while, folks. So we're going to have that conversation on that part. But I want to get through some of these important issues first, so that we can really have this conversation, so that we could really talk about what's happening in America, not just today, but for the next generation. How the kids in the future are going to be affected by all of this. Because one of the things that we have to remember is, and I have to be careful, because if I don't word this exactly correct, YouTube, Facebook, the major news media will kick me off. This is from Yale University. This is the College of Yale. This is May 5th, 2023. This is from Yale News. Why am I making that such a big deal? Because it is a credible international news source. This isn't my opinion. It isn't a guess. It isn't a maybe or no. This is the science, as they love to scream at us about. This is the science. And the science has a study that reveals that the post-mandate medication has heart inflammation cases. This is not something I'm making up. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This isn't me being a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I can read. That's all you need to do. You can read English. And the answer is being told to you on May 5th. You didn't know about this. Yet again, over and over again. MSNBC didn't tell you about this. CNN didn't tell you about this. ABC News, the New York Times, they didn't tell you about this This came from Yale. This isn't me making this up. This is coming from Yale. And Yale is telling you that if you got the jab, you may have a higher risk of heart inflammation because of the mRNA. That's not Michael saying that. That's what Yale is saying. That's what the science is saying to you. But you can't have that conversation because if you don't word it exactly like I have, they're going to ban you and they're going to say that you're evil and that you're giving out malinformation. It's not malinformation. I'm quoting these organizations. Let me go to another one because this is coming from Alex Berenson over at Substack, happened to mention on July 27th, 3 days ago, Alex Berenson mentioned that the jab may be a silent heart, it may be causing heart damage to tens of millions of people. Again, he's saying that the jab, which was mandated, that was required by the Biden-Harris administration, they told you couldn't go to work. They fired, in New York State alone, Kathy Hochul fired 34,000 doctors and nurses who refused to get the jab because they thought it might be dangerous. And here is a study that says tens of millions of people may have heart damage because of the jab that Kathy Hochul required, that Joe Biden required you to have to be able to live your life. And guess what? If you look, the study is coming from the European Journal of Heart Failure. This is an accredited peer-reviewed journal. This is a scientific, internationally respected scientific journal. I want to say that because I know where the attacks from the left come from. I know what YouTube and their censors will say. I know what the fact checkers on Facebook are going to say. Oh, I don't know about these sources. You can look it up for yourself. Research.com in particular. The European Journal of Heart Failure, an internationally recognized peer-reviewed scientific journal. And the actual document, which is sex-specific differences in myocardial injury incidents after the pandemic mandated jab, and they go into it. And what is the answer? What are they telling us in this scientific document, the research, which was done on 777 participants? What did they find out? Here it is. The jab, some of the jab will create myocardial injury, and it will be at a higher, more increased rate for Americans in particular. And by the way, this is going to affect women more than men. Think about that. See, this is something that the news media didn't want you to know about. They didn't want to tell you about this. They didn't want you to think about this. But again, I'm putting it on the screen. This is the report. I will have the full report in the description at the end of the live stream. This is what they did not want to tell you. This is what Kathy Hochul punished New Yorkers for. This is what Joe Biden punished Americans for. He closed businesses. People have gone into depressions. They have not been able to recover their lives. I lost my house. Other people have lost their life because they didn't take time to give us a warning. They didn't give you a choice. They said obey or else. And now, according to studies like the one from Yale, like this study, which is coming from Natalie Bergen, Pedro Lopez Ayala, Julia Hersinger. This is a peer-reviewed scientific study that is telling you, yeah, you just hurt yourself. If you listen to them, you may have, if you took the jab, you may have just hurt your heart. Again, I'm following the science. I'm quoting the science. I'm showing you the science. The very science that they don't want you to see, they don't want you to think about, and they don't want you to remember. They don't want you to hear about this. They're telling you, oh, no, forget it. Just don't talk about it. Just obey. And here I am saying, hey, no, let's have this conversation. I'm showing you the evidence. But the news media doesn't want you to even consider this. You're not supposed to have this in your mind whatsoever. That's evil. I think that's evil. When they know the studies are coming out, I have yet to hear Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, come out and apologize to the 34,000 doctors that she fired. Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, the practical progressive, as he called himself on CNBC after he won the mayor's race, who fired, 1.5 million doctors and city workers. I haven't heard him apologize to these people for illegally taking away their lives. And now we are seeing that these doctors that told us they did not think it was safe, that they had a problem because of their experience, their knowledge, their science, we're finding out they were right. And no one's willing to even apologize. We're not hearing the same people who fired them, who punished them, who demonized them. We're not hearing those people go, oh, look at that. You might be right. I'm sorry. Why can't they say that? Why can't they tell you that? That's the least they could do. They could say, I'm sorry. Maybe they could hire the people back. Maybe they could pay them for all the money that they lost. Maybe they should get sued for having to have punished these people and demonized them and taking away their jobs. Remember, it was December 2022 where you heard Joe Biden saying that he was tired of you if you didn't obey and get the jab. Here it is 7 months, 9 months later, and you're finding out that if you did obey and you got the jab and the boosters, guess what? Your heart may be inflamed. You may have damaged yourself for life. I'm not saying that that's what made LeBron James' kid fall over. I'm not telling you that this is why we have seen so many entertainers and their family drop down and be injured. I'm telling you that you should have the question, and you should at least be able to ask the question, that you should at least be able to have this discussion, that these politicians should at least apologize because they didn't know the science and they told us they thought they did. Am I wrong? Am I the bad guy here? Is this the bad thing? And again, I don't think most people knew this news. I don't think that the news media told you about this. Again, this came out, this report was made on, I believe it was, there it is. It was on, first, we knew about this. The evidence that this was happening, that you, women, are more in danger from the jab potentially, that they knew that on March 13th of 2023. And that they were telling people, they first tried to get this out on July 5th. It took until today, the 30th, for people to find out about this. You could have been protected. You could have known about this. They didn't care. The mainstream news media wants you to obey. You're not supposed to have this conversation. Again, I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't do with your body in terms of the medicines that you're supposed to take. I'm not going to advise you about what to do about an experimental drug that has never been tested, that we do not know what the long-term side effects are. That is all scientifically, absolutely factual, everything I just said. The fact checkers can go kiss my bottom. They know it is absolutely true. I have yet to say, and never have I said, whether or not you should or should not inject a experimental drug that is untested with unknown side effects, long and short term. I have never said whether you should or should not put that into your body. That's a decision for you and your doctor. I have not made a decision on that, so the fact checkers can get off my back about that. I'm just providing you what the science is saying, and I'm showing you the scientific reports, because you don't need to be a scientist to read the report. But they want to punish you. They want to punish you for actually being educated, for actually thinking for yourself, for critically thinking. They want to punish you because you're just supposed to obey. You're not supposed to have thoughts of your own. That. All right. Let me ask you guys. Do you want to talk about the illegal immigration in New York City and how that's going to affect people, and how these illegal aliens are going to be affecting everyone in America? The illegal aliens in New York are going to have an effect on everyone in America. Do you want to talk about that first, or do you want to talk about Joe Biden's son? It's up to you guys. You tell me. So I'm talking to chat right now, unless someone wants to call in, and I'm happy to have anyone call in. You can call to 607-242-9247, and you can have a conversation with me about whatever it is you want to talk about, whether you agree or disagree or you have something else that you want to talk about. That's okay. But unless someone wants to call in, I'm asking you, do you want to start talking about Joe Biden's sweetheart, Hunter Biden's sweetheart deal? Or do you want to talk about illegal immigration? And I see that Mary wants to start talking. Mind you, it's not an either or. It's which one we're going to talk about first. So Mary says how Hunter Biden is getting away with everything. Now, I want to give it a second. Mary, I hear what you're saying, but I want to give it a second. And by the way, if you're on the left, you're in the center, you're a libertarian, you're a conservative, if you want to have other people to make comments on this, share this right now. Share the show. Share them the link. Tell them that they can call in, that they can make their comments too. I want as many people involved as possible. Let's have this conversation. If you're going to tell me, if you have a politician, a Democrat, especially in New York State, but anywhere in the country, and they say, you know what, you just don't understand, and Hunter Biden, he deserved to be able to get the deal that he got. Fantastic. Share this with them. Let them call in or leave a comment. I want to see that. If they disagree with me, fantastic. If you agree with me, share it with people, and let's have this conversation with your friends who do and do not agree. Let's go for it. So we're going to talk about this because I'm seeing comments from Mary, but I'm not seeing anyone else say no. Okay, so let's talk about Hunter Biden first. We'll get back to the New York City illegal aliens in just a minute. But looking at Hunter Biden, and I believe I want to get this right for you because there's some news here. Come on. Give me a second. My computer's freezing up. So, I want you to see this from a couple of different ways. First of all, we have the message. This comes from Politico. And this was on the 26th, 4 days ago. And Betsy Woodruff Swan, along with Josh Gerstein, gave us an article saying the judge declines to approve Hunter Biden plea deal for now. That's a very Here's the thing. So actually, let's start from the beginning on this. Hunter Biden, we can see, we've had investigated for 2.5 years now, for actually 3 years now. We've seen the laptop. We know that there are emails that allege that Hunter Biden has used the influence of Joe Biden to make business deals around the world. We know that Hunter Biden has received money from various governments, including the Ukraine, including China, for various business deals. We know this. We know that Hunter Biden did not declare all the money that he received from around the world on these different governments. Like when he was meeting with the mayor of Moscow, I believe it was, the Russians, and they gave him they gave him this bonus money, and they gave him this wonderful trip with drugs and potentially prostitutes. He didn't declare that. So he made money that he did not tell the IRS about. If you don't tell the IRS about all the money you make, you may go to jail. That's called tax fraud. That's called, not embezzlement. Give me a sec. I'm forgetting the legal term for the money. It's money laundering. That's money laundering. You're not paying the government its fair amount, so that's tax fraud, and it's potentially money laundering. If you do it, if I do it, same thing. If we see that Jerry Nadler does it, if we see that Charles Rangel does it, that's called a mistake. And when we see that Hunter Biden does it, well, it's called, oops, you're not even supposed to talk about it. It's not even an issue. According to Hakeem Jeffries, according to Nancy Pelosi, talking to Chuck Schumer, of course, Kirsten Gillibrand, Josh Riley, when we listen to the Democrats, they tell you it's not even worth talking about. Let's not talk about that because it's not important. I think it's very important. When we are seeing people who are being treated extremely different, there's 3 levels of government here. There's the one that you and I live through. There's the one that members of Congress get to live through. And then there's Hunter Biden at this entirely different level. So he is getting money that he's not telling the government about. In addition, we know, as he has put that out in video, and he's said it in emails that have been confirmed. We have a laptop full of emails and videos confirming this, that Hunter Biden, because he is an addict, recovering or not doesn't matter, because as an addict, he was running around with drugs in his system. He lied. He got a gun that was illegal. He lied on a federal document to get a gun that Democrats tell us is a absolute massive crime and that he should go to jail, because you and I would go to jail for lying to the federal government on that document. He got a gun, and then he disposed of that gun in the most irresponsible way that you could possibly mention. He didn't sell it to someone. He threw it in a dumpster. Now, I don't know if any gangbanger saw him, knew that he was a strung out junkie at the time, and they said, oh, well, let me dive into the dumpster and get that gun out and go gangbanging, because that could have happened. We don't know if it did or didn't. It could have. We don't know if some other junkie saw that Hunter Biden took his gun, and when he threw it into a garbage can behind a school full of children, we don't know if a junkie saw that and said they dove into the dumpster and got that gun. We don't know if a kid picked up that gun, carried it around to their neighborhood. We don't know if someone died because of the gun that Hunter Biden irresponsibly threw into a garbage can. But we do know that's a crime. Are we all with me? Is anyone disputing the scenario that we've got to? This is what got us from 2014 to 2019. This is the reality of the world. This is what Hunter Biden did. He got drunk, he got high, he got money from foreign governments, he got money from illicit means, he spent it on drugs and tax evasion and businesses and possibly influence peddling. He got illegal firearms by lying to the federal government, and he disposed of those illegal firearms in the most irresponsible way, endangering the lives of potentially children and the general public. These are the facts at hand. Does anyone, left, right, center, I don't care if you're a progressive, a Democrat, a conservative, a libertarian, a Republican, I don't care what your political preference is. You can be part of the Green Party. You can be a Democratic National Socialist. You can be any of those. And I think we all agree, this is the evidence. These are the charges in front of us right now. Let me look at the comments to make sure. Mike Bowie says nothing's going to happen because since all of this leads back to Obama and Biden, he thinks the charges are going to drop. Mary says, interesting how Biden wants to pull all law-abiding citizens' guns, but Hunter can illegally possess and dispose of a firearm without any question. Imagine if this was Trump's son. Well, there you go. I agree with you. That's a very good question, Mary. But again, I've laid out the scenario and the charges as they exist. Does any of that sound like? And so Hunter then goes to court because he has been caught. By the way, he got caught because when the New York Post showed the world his laptop, when they showed the world the evidence for 2.5 years, the Biden administration and the mainstream media said it wasn't real. They lied to your face. They lied to you for 2.5 years. And the reason why he is in front of a judge today is because of that laptop information, because we had the proof, because at least one news media agency said, hey, we're going to tell the truth. And so we found that out. And then he goes in front. So Hunter Biden goes into front of the judge and he says, hey, judge, here's the deal. Here's my plea bargain. Here's me saying I'm guilty, and because I'm not going to go to trial, because I'm going to admit to everything I did, and because I'm, quote unquote, a good person, I've recovered, because it's his first offense, he's made this plea, so he should get a lighter sentence. This is why he has a plea deal, which the judge threw out the window. Notice how this is explained by Politico. Judge declines, as if, she just said, oh, no, that's not good. Declines to approve. Key words. She didn't say it's thrown out. She didn't say it's a done deal, that it's dead on the water, that his plea will not go forward, that it's ended, it's over. Because legally, that's what happened. She didn't not approve it, she threw it out. Very big difference. Politico is changing the words. They're changing the meaning. They're changing the feeling. And we're hearing this across all the news media. I'll show you. Judge declines to approve Hunter Biden plea deal for now. See, how do you know what's going to happen in the future? Politico is telling us that in the future, their journalists are saying the future is going to have this deal back. You don't know that. How can you report something you don't know? This is a guess. The headline is telling you that they're praying, they're hoping, they may want to see a deal, they may like to see a deal, that they may be betting and gambling that there's going to be a deal, but there's no evidence. You don't know that. How can you report something that the deal is dead in the water for now? How do you know it's ever not going to be dead? How can you report that? It's very important to understand. that the news media is trying to play games with the language and your feelings and emotions. They cannot say for now. The second that they say for now, this is not an article of news. This is an opinion piece. This is propaganda. The moment that you see that they put in the words for now, this is political commentary. It's not news. Politico isn't telling you the news. They're telling you the opinion of a bunch of leftists because they cannot know that. That isn't what happened in the courtroom. What happened in the courtroom is the judge threw this deal out. Period. Full stop. The deal is dead. Hunter Biden admitted, he said he's not guilty. He went from admitting that he's wrong to then plea deal. And why did the judge do that? Again, they don't want you to read the articles, but this is what it says. The judge made clear that she viewed the proposed deal, it's outside the norm. Quote, these agreements are not straightforward, and they contain some atypical provisions. In other words, you won't get this deal. I won't get this deal. Most members of Congress won't get this deal. This is a special, unique, very, very selective deal. Only special people get this. That's not American justice. That's not even the normal two-tier justice system of celebrities and politicians versus regular people. This is a special, significant deal just for Hunter Biden. Look, if there was no other reason to be upset about this, I think the reason to be upset about this is, as the judge pointed out, this is special. Hunter is being treated special. This deal is special. American politics is not, you're supposed to be equal. Isn't that what the Democrats tell me all the time? Men and women are equal. You're equal no matter what color of skin that you have. If anything, then there's social justice, black justice. That means that you have to be a person of color to get any special treatment. This is what the progressives say. This is their message. Hunter Biden is white. He's as white as you get. So why is he getting a special deal? Hunter Biden isn't part of BLM. Antifa isn't running around to protest for Hunter Biden. So why is he getting a deal? Well, it's because it's just special. Special what? His dad's the president. That's the answer. The answer is that his dad's the president and power. Democrats want power. And Biden has the power. So his son gets a deal that not you, not me, not the members of Congress would get. And the judge just happened to admit it. Just happened to notice that, hey, you're doing something no one in America gets to do. And she said, maybe not. And so, again, going back to the article, I'm going to go to the comments in a second. But going back to the article, when we hear that this is a special, unique, snowflake deal only for Hunter Biden, that no one else in America gets to have this, it's just him. You can't tell me that this plea deal was not approved. It was thrown out because it's illegal. It's wrong. It breaks the legal system. That's just the first part of this. See, and that's what we're hearing from Politico and how they are abusing this against you. Now you may say, Mike, but you've spent all this time talking about the title. Well, guess what? Most people in America, when it comes to politics today, all they read is the headline. They don't read the articles. So yeah, I have a lot to say about the headline because the headline is very important. And the news media companies Politico knows this. The editor who wrote that headline, the writers who wrote that headline and wrote that story, they know most people do not read the story. That's why they buried what the judge actually said dead in the middle. They buried that story. They buried that sentence, and they put in that headline saying it's for now. The deal's dead for now, but it's going to happen, so that you're prepared. So they are preparing you for when it does happen, because they can say, well, we told you so. Didn't you see the headline? We said it's going to happen. We just didn't know when. You couldn't complain. Your complaints don't matter. That's what Politico just told you. Again, when Politico told you, for now, it means that if you're upset that Hunter Biden is being treated more unique than politicians and actors and entertainers, that he is the most special person in America to get a deal only for him. No one else in the world gets this deal. Only him. If you complain, it doesn't matter. Why? For now. It's a done deal. You don't get to say anything about it. Your voice doesn't matter. You don't count. For now. That's why they put those two words in there. For now. It's going to happen whether you like it or not, whether you think it's legal or not, whether you think it's justified or not. It's going to happen. Deal with it. That's what Politico just told you. You should be very upset about that. I'm just providing you the evidence. That's why headlines are important. Why does it matter? Because they're telling us what's going to happen. They're prepping you. And they're nullifying your voice if you let them. And I'm just telling you, here's the truth. Here's the evidence. Here's what they are doing to you in your face that you didn't notice. Because they did it so fast that you're not supposed to pay attention. You're not supposed to notice it. No one else in the media is going to go step back and say, hey, wait a minute. But why did you put in for now? In a news article, not an opinion piece. I'm opinion. I might say something like that. I'm opinion. They're news. If they are truly news reporters, why would they dare say for now? Politico isn't a commentary site. They're a news site. So why are they doing commentary? And not telling you that it's commentary. They're telling you it's news. Because they are abusing you. They're taking advantage of you. And if Politico doesn't like me saying that, let's have a conversation, Politico. Let's get the editor who approved that on the phone with me, and we can have that conversation, and he can try and explain to me why he included the words for now, which is propagandizing, and it's nullifying the voters. It's nullifying Americans' choice. Let's have that conversation. I'll be happy to have the conversation with the editor of Politico, 607-242-9247. Let's have that conversation. But I don't think it's going to happen. All right. I promised I'd go back to some of the comments, so let me get back to that. I already mentioned that Mike Bowie said that he thought nothing would happen because this is related to Joe Biden and Obama and the politics there. Mary says it's interesting how Biden wants to pull all of the law-abiding citizens' guns, but Hunter Biden can illegally possess and dispose of a gun. Mike Bowie said that the DOJ slipped in an immunity clause. No, I'm about to get to that, Mike. I'm about to talk about the immunity portion. And Mike Bowie says, I think it was that upset the judge the most. Well, the most. There's a lot that the judge was upset about in this case, as I'm pointing out to you. It's not just that of what the terms of the deal were, it's the fact that it was even made, that this is unique and special. From the very beginning, the judge had a problem with this. Lynn, hello, Lynn. So glad you can join us now that I'm here in the Bronx. Thank you for joining us. And Lynn says, I may have missed, but do you think the hunter will get away with it at the end? What will happen to Karma? Okay. No, I haven't. No. Lynn, I've spent a little bit of time here trying to explain how the news media is setting up the public and nullifying the voices of the public through their headlines and the way that they're telling the news. Actually, they're creating a story. They're not telling the news. They're telling you a commentary about the news so that you will shut up, that you will never speak up. They're telling you you don't count. And so I've been talking about how Politico did that, because Politico isn't unbiased. Politico is very biased. And I think I proved that one. But here's now what we see from, this is from the Today Show 2 days ago, and how they're talking about it. Because I'm going to get to what I think about Hunter, whether he should be in jail. Do I think he's going to go to jail? What would the punishments be? I'm going to get to that in 1 second. But I want you to see, now, Politico says the new details on Hunter Biden's rejected plea deal. This is going to take about 1 minute. I want you to see what happens in the 1 minute. I'm just going to play this. I know I'm going to get in trouble with the Today Show, NBC. They're going to try and shut down this channel and or remove this video, because I'm going to show you what they're saying. This is political commentary. This is allowed by law. And they're going to give me a block, an international block, because I'm going to dare to allow you to see what they said and comment on it. So here it goes.
A plea deal remains on hold between Hunter Biden and the Justice Department, facing federal tax charges. The president's son was hoping to put his legal troubles behind him this week.
Okay, there it is. We've gone all of 8 seconds. And Today's show, NBC, has already lied to the American people. In 8 seconds, they have already framed this to shut you down and to misinform the public. It took them 8 seconds. That's got to be a record somewhere. And that should be insulting, and people should be pissed off. 8 seconds. And you're saying, Mike, but what happened? Because the charges weren't just a tax deal. Let's get that right. There's more to this than just the taxes. Notice they left out the gun charges, the illegal documents, the falsification of documents to the federal government, the illegal disposing of a firearm that was illegally possessed by Hunter Biden. And the tax charges, they don't even go into detail to say what kind of tax charges. Well, what were those tax charges? He illegally got funds overseas, possibly for influence peddling. This is kind of important. So again, they're framing this. They're telling, oh, well, it's taxes. Don't mention the gun thing. Why? They're setting you up. It's a mistake. So let's go back. Just 3 seconds. Hunter Biden and the Justice Department facing federal tax charges end. No, there's more to it than that. And there's a reason why. But let's go forward. Let's see what else they have to say.
The president's son was hoping to put his legal troubles behind him this week, but a federal judge expressed concerns over that plea deal, and now the White House is...
She didn't express concerns. She said this was a bad deal. She said it's an irregular deal. She said this isn't the justice system. She said, I can quote her in the articles, she said, I will not approve this. I'm not going to be in this. She didn't just... let me go on.
Is addressing Hunter Biden's legal future. NBC's Ryan Nobles is on the story for us this morning. So, Ryan, what is the White House saying?
Okay. So they're asking a very specific question. What is the White House saying? This is what NBC has told their reporter on their news program to tell you. What did the White House say about Hunter Biden, his tax problems, and his gun problem, which they left out? So what's the answer?
Well, Savannah, as you know, the White House has gone to great lengths to avoid getting involved in the legal troubles.
The White House has gone through great lengths to not be involved. They are involved. What do you mean they've done great lengths to not be involved? The Justice Department's involved. The Secret Service is involved. They have the press secretary putting out stories and making up stories about this. They haven't not been involved in this. The only thing that they've done is they haven't answered the questions. Joe Biden has run away from reporters. He won't answer them. That's not being uninvolved. That's avoiding taking accountability. But let's go forward.
Of the president's son, the president himself, generally just bats away questions that relate to Hunter.
Again, he bats away questions. That's being unaccountable. That's avoiding answering things. But let's go on.
But now as press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre making it clear there is one line the president will absolutely not cross when it comes to his son's situation. She plainly ruled out the possibility of a pardon from President Biden for his son, insisting that there's a firewall between the White House and the Justice Department.
We know we know for a fact there isn't a firewall between the Justice Department and the Biden administration. They're constantly talking to each other. They have been for years talking together. We know that there's been collusion from the New York Times all the way up through everybody involved in Democratic politics and the Biden-Harris administration and the United States government since 2.5 years ago when the laptop was being told to us doesn't exist, when we were told the diary didn't exist. So that's a lie, and the news media knows it. But going on.
Now, as for that court case, both sides have about a month to address the federal judge's concerns over that plea agreement. But as for now, that case is headed to trial. Savannah?
All right, that's the...
So they really didn't tell anyone what's going on. And they know that. And they know. And by the way, why am I stopping at 59 seconds? Because we're supposed to hear, well, and the title of this is New Details on Hunter Biden's Rejected Plea Deal. They haven't told you anything. They said, well, Joe Biden doesn't want to talk about it. Okay, that's not new. That's not a part of the deal. They said it's about taxes. They left out the fact that it's also about the gun laws, that it's about lying to the federal government. They forgot to mention that's about drugs. And so it's drugs, money, and guns. They left all that out. And they left out the fact that, and Joe Biden's running away from all the questions. They haven't told you anything new about the plea deal. What happens after the 1 minute mark on NBC News when they're trying to tell you about the new details in the plea deal?
The criminal case on Capitol Hill. Hunter Biden is also facing investigations in Congress. What is being looked at there? Any headway by Republicans there?
Now they're talking about, after the 59th second, NBC is now talking about Republicans. They're talking about Congress. They're talking about Beltway politics. This is supposed to be about the plea deal. They're supposed to be informing you about something you didn't know over the last 2 days about the Hunter Biden plea deal. They didn't tell you anything. In fact, they subtracted from what you're supposed to know. And I'm very upset about this because this is lying to the public. This is taking advantage of the public. This is using the full power and weight of the news media, a multi-million-dollar company, hundreds of millions of dollars, tens of thousands of employees, and they are abusing you. NBC News just tricked you. They just nullified you. And I just showed you that. In 59 seconds, they changed the story, deleted the details, obfuscated the facts, and then they switched the story. For the next minute and a half that this exists, this is a 2.5 minute story. The next minute and a half, the roughly 60% of this entire video on YouTube that YouTube demands that you see. When I looked for this, they were filling the screen with NBC in the results to make sure that I found, when I searched for Hunter Biden deal, They made sure that this NBC Today show popped up on my screen multiple times so that I would see the NBC version of this story. This is manipulation, and you should be upset. 60% of this has nothing to do with Hunter Biden and his deal about the crimes alleged to have been done by Hunter Biden. No. They spent the first minute lying to you about what the case is in the first place. And mind you, they never told you why. They didn't even bother to answer, why is the judge upset? Why did the judge throw out the deal? Can you see why I'm upset about this, folks? Can you see why this is frustrating and why? And I'm trying to give this justice to go through this in detail because this is our legal system. This is the precedent for the future. If we allow this to go without question, the news media will never bother to correct the record. The news media will learn that people don't need to be told the truth, that they can hide anything from the American public if they just word it right. That's why I have to do this. This is why I'm going through this in detail that no one else in the news media is doing. The rest of the political commentary, they're trying to do 1-minute videos. They're trying to get to you in 5 minutes or less and go on to the next story. We need to talk about this. This is how serious this is. I just showed you how Politico is pushing propaganda, their political opinions, and telling you it's a news story. Now you see NBC News, and they're over here misdirecting you. It's all smoke screen. There's no mirrors. It's just smoke screens. And they're hiding the facts from you. They are lying to you. They are treating you like a child, like you can't understand the details and that you don't need to be told everything. Just shut up, sit in the corner, deal with it. Let the adults handle this story. Really? Screw you. Oh, I'm so pissed off at, and when I say that, I'm talking to NBC News. Screw you, NBC News. You guys have failed the American people. I get very upset about this, and we should be upset about this. And I shouldn't be the only one ripping apart Politico and NBC for abusing the American people, abusing the First Amendment, all for politics. Why is it that the guy who just lost his house, who has no money, why am I the guy who's out trying to protect the First Amendment, and the multi-million-dollar companies are the ones that are running around breaking the law, that are abusing the system, and they're the ones who get to be lauded, and they get to make money, and I get to lose my house. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. Isn't it supposed to be the other way around? That if you don't do the right thing all the way, all the time, if you aren't actually trying to do the best you can, then for you and everyone else, well, then you're supposed to be punished, except that's not what's happening here. And I'm showing you the evidence live. I am walking you through this. And there is no one at Politico, there is no one that is at Politico right now. Where is it? There it is. There is no one at Politico, and there is no one at NBC. Where is it? Oops. Excuse me. Come on. News media. There it is. There's no one at NBC, and there's no one at Politico that will tell me that they will not tell you that I'm wrong. They can't defend this. They know they can't defend this. They're not even going to try and defend this. They're just going to move on. They're going to assume you're too dumb to notice the tricks that they're trying to pull. That you don't know the English, that you don't understand the English language well enough, you don't understand the context, the commentary, that you just don't get it. They think you are dumb. I think my audience is incredibly smart. And this is why I'm having this conversation with you. So before we can even talk about what Hunter Biden has done and the plea deal, we have to look at the propaganda that is surrounding this to insulate Hunter Biden and what he has done and what is being done by the Biden-Harris administration the administration to protect their own. We have to look at the core. One of the core problems is the media and their political preferences overriding everything else. This really pisses me off. This makes me very upset. And so I want to make sure that I'm showing you all this because no one else in the media is going to explain this. No one else in the media is going to take the time to look at what they just did. And I just showed it to you. So they can't say it's not real. They can't lie to you and say, well, no, Mike, you misunderstand. I just showed you. I walked through it. I'm taking the time for it. The rest of them won't. They'll say, no. Their answer will be, no, you're wrong. Moving on. They won't actually stop and say, no, let's explain why you're wrong, because they don't have a reason why I'm wrong. I'm not wrong. Explaining it to you, you can see it. It's not wrong. You may not like it. Now, let me be clear. You may not like it. There are people who are watching this that will say, Mike, I don't like that opinion. Fantastic. I have no question. You don't have to like it. They're going to be people who say, Mike, it makes me feel bad to hear what you say. Fantastic. You can have any feeling you want. That doesn't refute what I have said. That doesn't change the facts as they exist. You don't have to like it. You don't have to feel good about it. But it's still happening. And if you allow it to happen, if you're more worried about your feelings than what they're doing to Americans and how they are treating us and how they expect us to be treated in the future, if you're okay with that, then this nation is in absolute, it's abject over. It's over. This is an abject horror. The abuse of the First Amendment in this way is insane. Hey, Bellin. Good to see you with us. Thank you. So I've just now explained the headline that Politico has put out there. I've explained what the NBC is doing to abuse the American people. And I wanted to... Hang on one second, folks. Hang on one second. Yeah, okay. I'm just trying to keep up here. And where is it? Let's go to, so I went through NBC, I went through Politico. So let's take a look at, and now we're going to get to the deal itself. Let's deal with the deal itself so everybody's on the same page. And by the way, Mary mentions, it amazes me how commonplace to the, what is it? Mary says, it amazes me how people have allowed themselves to get so complacent to the truth. I know that the population has been groomed due to the media controlling what is being talked about. This is a scary stuff. This is happening in the past, including during the 1930s Germany. It's controlling the masses. And Mary, you are correct. Mary also goes on to say, and you are so right about people only looking at the headlines. It is maddening. I know. But that's what people are being trained to do. And that's why it's so important that we look at the headlines and we compare that to the content. And we also look at the context and the way that they're changing. They just slippery slope, just slide past what they're saying to us, like NBC did. So, but this time, let's take a look at, again, now we can actually talk. Now that we understand the propaganda that surrounds this, now that we can see how major, massive news media, world famous news media organizations like NBC and Politico are abusing the First Amendment and abusing the American people. Now that we know that this is going on, and we know that this is an environment where you're going to see corruption right up the wazoo, let's actually deal with the deal itself. We know what is alleged that Hunter Biden did, as confirmed by his own videos, his own emails, and to an extent his own statements for the last 2.5 years. So what do we know for sure? What is the plea deal? The plea deal is that Hunter Biden Here it is. Hunt, in the end, quote, I'm quoting right now, this is from the BBC. So I have to go outside the United States to actually get an answer about what happened in this court case. Because Politico is in the U.S., NBC is in the U.S. They won't tell us what's going on. I have to go over to the United Kingdom to look at the BBC to get information about a U.S. incident. That doesn't make any sense. This is U.S. politics, and I have to go to another nation to get a true answer. This is how bad it is, folks. But buried in here, so we have to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In the 11th paragraph, we finally get to what happened. In the end, and I am quoting, in the end, the two sides agreed that Mr. Biden should be protected from further tax and gun charges stemming from activities that took place between 2014 and 2019. So, what does that mean? Well, what does that mean is immunity. Now, this was brought up by, I believe, Mike Bowie mentioned. This is about immunity. He's not just protected from 2014 to 2019. The deal that the government, the United States government, the same government that we were just told by NBC that Joe Biden is hands off, he has nothing to do with this. The same government that answers to Joe Biden just agreed to a deal that gave Hunter Biden immunity forever, period. This is why the judge said, this is unusual, this is uncommon to the extreme, that this doesn't make sense, because this is excluding any and all crimes forever, period. Really? No one gets that deal. No one ever gets that deal. He's absolved of every crime possible under the sun. It's just wiped out. He's excluded. There are no these charges. And the government said, yes, that's the deal. He admits that he evaded taxes. He admits that he illegally got a gun, that he illegally disposed of the gun, that he lied to the government, not to mention the American people, because this came out 2.5 years ago. He's been lying to the American people to their face. If he says he is guilty, that means he's lying to the American people as well. So he has lied to the public, he has lied to the government, he's lied to everyone. And that's what happens if he accepts this plea deal and he goes with guilty. If he's proven guilty, he takes the plea deal. It means he lied to everyone. And for all of that, for endangering children, he gets to walk away and no one will ever be able to charge him with crime. And the government said yes. The government, which is the prosecution, who are supposed to go at, here it is. You know what? This is from the BBC. Let's see what the BBC had to say about this. Don't take it from this 55-year-old black man. Let's see what the news media, the international news media had to say about that. They said, it's typical for the defense attorneys, Biden's team, to press for the broadest level of protection for their clients when entering plea negotiations. Prosecutors, the United States government in this case, on the other hand, tend to want to keep their options open. They want to have the ability to charge people with a crime or multiple crimes, especially as an investigation is ongoing. These details are usually hammered out well ahead of the courtroom appearance, except in this case, they weren't. The Biden team has a particular interest in limiting the Justice Department's range of future options. They want to shut down the Department of Justice. They want to silence the American people, the news media, and every courtroom in the nation. They want to throw this away. They want to throw it in a bucket, in a cellar, and just cement the whole damn thing over. Both in prosecutions and determining violations of the gun argument to prevent a Republican president from reopening the inquiry in 2025. They want to protect this forever from anyone, period. You don't count. The law does not count. See, this is why I take my time going through it. We have to go outside the United States to actually find out the full details, not the feelings, not the opinions, and not the edits that we have seen from Politico and NBC, as I just showed you. And I can go through many more of the left-leaning news media, international, credible news agencies that are doing the same thing. Either what Politico did in being propagandizing, or what we're seeing with NBC, where they're omitting critical facts and glancing past the actual subject of the story. Yeah, we can do that all day. We have to go outside of the United States to a country that's not ours, that has an entirely different legal system, an entirely different political system, to even start to get to the actual core of the problem. That this doesn't make sense. That that Joe Biden is trying to get immunity for his son, Hunter Biden. Hunter is trying to he's getting a get out of jail pass as if this was a Monopoly game. That he just has the get out of free jail card from Monopoly and he doesn't ever have to hand it in. It's forever. And the rest of the media are telling you, shut up, accept it, you don't have a voice. That's what NBC said. That's what Politico said. And I just showed you that. I spent the time to go over for you. Does anyone think I am run? Anyone think I am wrong? Anyone say, Mike, you just showed us 3 different stories and explained going through each of them. Do you think I've missed something? Did I misrepresent anything? Anyone have an opinion? Let me go to the comments. Mike Bowie says, oh, well, he's talking about, let's see. Vaccine, mandated medication dangers, misinformation. Laptop from hell, misinformation. Voter fraud, misinformation. Russian collusion, misinformation. Everything that they're saying is misinformation. Yeah, if you raise questions, it's misinformation. It's disinformation. Oh my God. It's malinformation. This is insane. I mean, these people are out of their minds. Let me tell you how I feel. Yeah, that's how it makes me feel. Again, that's how I feel when I listen to these news agencies as they are abusing the First Amendment, they're abusing the American people, and they're getting paid millions of dollars for it. I'm asking for $1.50 a month. They're asking you for your life. They're destroying the American justice system. This doesn't make any sense. And they're telling you, you're not supposed to pay attention. You're not supposed to ask any questions. You're just supposed to sit back, say, it's inevitable. No one can do anything about it. It's just going to happen because everything's screwed up. Just let it go. No, I'm not just letting it go. I'm going into detail and I'm calling NBC and Politico out by name. Because nobody wants to do that, because what's going to happen is you're going to see YouTube and Facebook and Google are going to punish my channel. Well, I don't know that they can punish me any more than they already do. They've already censored me. We saw that when we were talking about the 140 terrorists that are running around America right now. 5,000, almost 5,000 people on Instagram are able to see that 1 minute video, and on YouTube, less than 100 people are allowed to see it. Yeah, I can't show you a better example of how they are punishing me for telling you the truth, for showing you the evidence. I'm not telling you have to like it. I'm not telling you that you have to agree with it. I'm not telling you that you have to believe everything I believe. I'm not asking you to be a conservative Republican. I'm asking you to look at the evidence that they have provided and understand that it's real, that there are consequences, whether you like it or not. And yet they're trying to punish me. They're punishing you. Let me be more clear. Let me be more realistic. They're not punishing me. They're punishing you. They're punishing you for daring to critically think, to ask a question, and to look at the details, and to maybe come up with an answer. This is about how they want to punish you. Lynn says I should run for president. Well, sorry, establishment Republicans, they wouldn't support Vivek Ramaswamy. They're not going to, and they haven't. Historically, the establishment Republicans, especially in Broome County, they don't support me for Congress. They didn't support me for a county legislator. They're not going to support me to go for a presidential run, as an example. It's kind of sad. Mike Bowie says, you took my get out of jail free card line. Yeah, well, yes, I might have. But I tell you, folks, it just upsets me. It infuriates me that this is what we are going through. This infuriates me that we have to see this kind of situation. It doesn't make sense. I mean, this is one of the reasons why when I go to Rumble, I have, I don't know, 400, 500 more, 500% more people watching on Rumble than I do on YouTube. Because every time that I point out, here's how the news media is lying to you. Here is the example of how they are hiding the truth from you. They are hiding the evidence from you. That they are making up their own story and pushing it because of their political agenda. And every time I show you that, they say, oh, and we have to take away the number of subscribers he has. We have to show this to less people. We have to punish because he's actually showing the evidence. Whether or not you like it, that's up to you. They don't care. You're not even supposed to know it exists. You're not supposed to see the evidence. And that's why I have a 500% more viewership on Rumble than I do on YouTube. It's why I have 5,000 people seeing a short that I put out about the terrorists running around America right now, and on YouTube, it's less than 100 people because YouTube is punishing you, not me. I know there's 140 people running around America right now. Let me bring this back up so we can be very clear here on what we're talking about. Give me 1 second. So I want to be very clear. I'm aware that there are 140 terrorists or individuals who are on the terrorist watch list, which is the same thing, that are in America illegally, that entered through the southern border, illegally entered America, are running around right now, potentially committing or getting ready to commit 9/11 types of terrorism. I know that. You are my audience. You know this. You're protected. I'm protected. The rest of America, they're not supposed to see this. According to YouTube, that only allowed 85 people to see it on YouTube, and 5,000 people wanted to see this on Instagram. There's over 200 likes on Instagram telling you that there is an audience. They want to see this. They want to be informed. And YouTube and the major news media don't want to talk to you. We are watching this happen, as I have shown you how Politico has lied to the people. They are propagandizing in front of your face, and they are telling you things. They're setting you up for failure, and we are watching NBC News take advantage of you and just omit facts. It isn't a guess. This isn't my opinion. I have shown the evidence, and I am being punished for it. You're being punished for it. You know what you can do? There's one thing I can ask you to do about that. Like, share, subscribe. It's about the only thing I can ask you to do is like, share, subscribe. If you find this entertaining, if you find this educational, if you find it informative, if it's at whatever your reason, I ask you, like, share, subscribe. That's it. It costs you nothing to do those things. To be able to get this content and to be able to say, okay, today I like it, I agree with it or not. And you can always call in. This is interactive. We do 30 hours of content a month, and you're able to be interactive with 75% of it. So please consider like, share, subscribe. Let other people around the world and in the United States be able to have this conversation. Let's be able to reach more people in Southeast Asia. Let's talk to the people in South Korea, where we see Kim Jong-un is targeting them with missiles. So far, 24 missiles since the beginning of January 2023, over 100 in 2022. They're threatening Taiwan, South Korea, and Japan. Why is it that YouTube won't let, when I cover this and talk about that, why do the people in Japan and South Korea, why aren't they able to see this news? Why won't YouTube let them see this and talk about it? Oh, because they don't like the answer. They don't like that I'm pointing out that America, under the Biden-Harris administration, is weak, that we do not support our allies. Oh, that's why they don't want to do it. It's very upset. Now, mind you, folks, it is up to you. If you choose to, you can, as you see in the link below me, you can join the Patreon. It's $1.50 per month, not more. And I will not increase that. There could be 1 million people who become Patreon supporters, which is beyond what I would ever expect. My goal is to get to 10,000, between 10 and 50,000 subscribers. I believe that there is an audience of 10 to 50,000 people around the world that would be happy to hear what we are talking about today, that are willing to have conversations like we're having today. I think that's realistic if it weren't for YouTube and the progressive ideology suppressing voices out there. And I ask you, just $1.50 a month. That's if you want to. If you want to. Or you can donate to Patreon one time. That's up to you. But all I ask for is that like, share, subscribe. Now, with that said, let me go back to... Oh, I know I get very excited about this, folks. And I know we've been on for, what, 2.5, 3 hours today? 3 hours. 3 hours, yeah. Hang on a second. And I know, I'm surprised no one's called in so far today. And as far as I can I know that we changed studios, so everything looks a little different. And I know people are probably surprised. I know everyone's is usually very surprised that we have such a different studio, and the lighting, for the most part, wasn't great, and it looks like the lighting has improved as the sun has gone down and down. We'll fix the studio for next week. We'll get it better. We're going to improve constantly. We always try to. But, so maybe that threw some people off this week, maybe not. But I think it's more about the censorship. And this is important, folks. See, this program, there is every opportunity. If you're the Antifas out there, they could have called in at any time and said, Mike, I don't agree. Fantastic. Tell me why. Didn't happen. What is that? Hang on. I'm hearing something. Did you just hear like some background noise there, folks? Okay. It sounded like maybe I hit a button somewhere or something. I thought I heard some background noise. But I think it's incredible. Okay, I completely lost my train of thought there, just to be fair. I lost my train of thought. Let me see. So Mike Bowie says, does this mean no more cookouts? Yes. At least not in Broome County. Will I be back in Broome County? No. Will I ever have another cookout with people who watch the program? Probably. Not in New York State, not in upstate New York. No. Sorry. But no, I'm pretty done with New York State. It's not good for business opportunities. It's not good for taxes. And the support from the established party line is only if you're an establishment person. They like a lot of yes people, especially in Broome County. They want people to obey more than they want people to do the right thing. That doesn't mean everyone, mind you. I'm not talking about rank and file Republicans. I'm not talking about libertarians. I'm not talking about rank and file Democrats. I'm talking about the parties, the establishment. They're in New York State. They are entrenched, and they are not good. And then you couple that with horrible policies that are taxes. We're seeing more tax and spend policies. We're seeing the quality of the state go down. I'm not the first one to tell you this. It's not a surprise to anyone. We have been talking on this channel for a decade, documenting that people are escaping out of New York on a regular basis. We have been losing hundreds of thousands of people per year. We have been leading the nation in people escaping from New York State faster than any other state in the nation. The only state that's actually occasionally been competition on the number of people trying to get out is California and New Jersey. New Jersey only beat New York 1 year out of the last 10, and California 2 years out of the last 10. So for 7 out of 10 years, everyone's trying to get out of New York State more than any other state in the country. Why? Because it's going to hell in a handbasket, because the single party rule has not helped Democrats nor Republicans. Nobody's benefiting unless you happen to be an illegal alien. If you're an illegal alien, New York State has been the best place in the universe to be. We gave them checks for $16,000 for the pandemic per person. We spent $16,000 per, I believe it was $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion of your tax money was spent to give checks to criminals who broke the law and entered this nation. We gave criminals $1.2 billion of your money. That's New York State. New York State has been putting up for a year and a half. We have been taking illegal aliens and we have been putting them in 3- and 4-star hotels, spending $60,000 per illegal alien. These are criminals we're talking about. We spent $60,000 per illegal alien of your tax money, twice what the average person in America makes, for these illegal aliens to sit and live in hotels. Think about that. That's crazy. And now, here comes the wake-up call. And here comes the wake-up call. Because as bad as New York has been about that, here comes the crazy part. And now, because New York City has run out of your money, Eric Adams, the practical progressive, as he described himself on CNBC, now that he has run out of money, your money. He's run out of your tax money because everyone's getting out of New York State. Now he has decided, kick the illegal aliens out of the hotels and let them run around the streets of New York. That's his solution. His solution is just let the illegal aliens run through the streets, let them be homeless. So you're going to kick them out of the hotels and let them be part of the homeless population. So now we have homeless criminals who are pissed off because they got kicked out of a hotel and they're living on the streets. That's not a recipe for a bad situation. Let's think about that for a second. Does that make sense to people? Think about it. This is coming from WAMC, WAMC.org. New York City limits access to migrants, that's illegal aliens, and asylum seekers. Many are left homeless. We've cut them off. Mayor Eric Adams has been issuing warnings that that New York City shelter system simply cannot handle the deluge of illegal aliens that they requested. Eric Adams asked for the illegal aliens. Kathy Hochul asked for the illegal aliens, just like Gavin Newsom, just like Mitt Whitmer out of Michigan, just like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They asked for the illegal aliens. They got what they asked for. Of the over 90,000 people received, same thing in Chicago, in last year, we have no more room in the city. We need help from the federal government. They need more money. They need to spend more of your money. Where is it? Adams also recently announced several unusual measures, including distribution of filers of asylum, illegal aliens, at the border in order to discharge migrants from coming from New York City. He's fighting against the right to shelter law. So basically, he's kicking the illegal aliens out. After spending 2 years giving them all of your money, letting them live more comfortable than you, when the money ran out, because socialism only works as long as you have other people's money. This is Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher said, socialism works fantastic until you run out of other people's money. And once the money stops, it fails. New York City was doing fantastic. Eric Adams was happy to spend your money on illegal aliens. And when your money ran out, and he doesn't have your money anymore, now he's going to kick the illegal aliens out of the hotels, put them on the street, and now it's your problem. You deal with it. You deal with those homeless people. Here I am in the Bronx. We have a brand new hotel made for illegal aliens. They don't need it in this neighborhood. This used to be a middle-class neighborhood that never had that hotel. And it's now a impoverished neighborhood in the Bronx. And we have 2, maybe 3 hotels, and they're building another one for illegal aliens, which we never had an influx of illegal aliens in this neighborhood. For 50 years that my family's been here, that wasn't the case. But now we have this, and he's now going to tell those hotels, empty out every single illegal alien you have in your hotels so that they can walk around in this formerly middle-class neighborhood of the Bronx to do what? What do you think they're going to do? Do you think they're going to just move on? They're going to go to New Jersey? They're going to move to California? No, they're not. Do you think they're going to say, well, I guess I have to become a naturalized citizen, taking 20 years. No, they're not. Do you think they're going to cause crimes and they're going to increase homelessness, which is going to increase the amount of human beings who are living in filth? It's going to be a sanitary issue. It's going to be a human moral issue. It's going to be a problem at every level, and that crime and sex abuse will occur. Do you think that's likely? I do. Do you think more people will be human trafficked because Eric Adams is now kicking the illegal aliens that he invited into the streets? I do. Mind you, nobody in the news media wants to say, well, illegal aliens are the biggest source of human slaves in 2023, because slavery didn't end in 1865. It's ongoing to this day. And the biggest source of slavery in 2023 is illegal aliens. And when you throw illegal aliens out into the street, you're going to increase the amount of slaves that are in America in 2023. That's a fact. You don't have to like it. It's still a fact. Let me go back to some of the comments here. So Ram said, hi, Voss. He says hello to everybody. Ram is saying hello to everyone. Says, I think more criminal is the government and politicians who are supporting all of this. And I think it, see, I don't think it's more or less criminal. I think it's just insane, and it is all criminal, and we should crack down on this. We need to speak up and speak out on this. It will not change for the better by being silent. By standing on the sidelines and just going, don't talk to me because I don't want to be the one to point out that the building's on fire. Well, not trying to put out the fire, not telling someone that there's a fire doesn't stop the fire. The fire doesn't stop until somebody tries to put the fire out. You need to do that. And that's the thing we're not doing right now. Lynn mentions, am I back in the Bronx? Yes, Lynn. I got in last night and I'm back in the Bronx. Lynn says, too bad Lee Zeldin didn't become governor. Well, some things would have been better with Lee in there. He compromises way too much. He's an established Republican. But would I prefer Lee Zeldin to Kathy Hochul? In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Almost anybody before Kathy Hochul. Kathy Hochul, the reason why if you have health care issues in New York State right now for the last year, that's Kathy Hochul's problem. She fired 34,000 of our doctors and nurses. If you have health care issues that you can't get seen, that's her fault. They're going to blame it on Republicans. Somehow we're the ones at fault because I didn't wear a mask. I didn't take away your doctor. She did. Yes, Lynn. Lynn mentions that she's in New Jersey. I do know. I know. I remember Lacey told me roughly where you guys live. I used to live close to there because I lived in New Brunswick, New Jersey for a little while when I went to college out there. So I know northern Brunswick, New Jersey, that whole area. So I'm familiar. I know where you live, so I do know it. And you're right, it's not much better. It is all getting worse. Why? Look at every one of the states that have single party control that are progressive. And look at the increase in crime. Look at the increase in illegal immigration. Look at the increase in whether you want to call it slavery or human trafficking or child trafficking. They're all up. It tells you their policies don't work. And the people, the natives, the people who built up those communities are all leaving. Every single one of them, every single one of those areas. The communities that built that neighborhood, that built that city, they're getting out. And the people who are coming in are illegal immigrants and other criminals. Let me say that again. Illegal aliens and other criminals. Because illegal aliens are criminals by definition. The news media wants to cover from them. They want to propagandize. They want you to feel better about it. They tell you, well, they're migrants. No, they're not. They weren't given authority. They weren't given approval to migrate to the United States. They broke in. You can't tell me that the burglar that broke into your house, that they belong to be in your house. They didn't have a right to be in your house. They're a burglar. They broke in. It's a crime. Illegal immigration, same thing. And their answer now is, let's piss off all these criminals. And I'm not saying that all levels of criminals are the same. Just because you're a criminal for breaking into America doesn't mean that you're now going to start selling heroin to children. It's not the same thing. Just because you're a criminal, an illegal alien, doesn't mean that you're now going to start a sex slave ring. That's not the same thing. It doesn't mean that you're going to go out and rob banks and mug old women. No. Although some will. Let's be honest. Let's be realistic. These are people who are willing to break the law to get whatever it is they want. I cannot say that people who will go to extreme levels of suffering, they will go to extremity to break the law. I can't tell you that. I cannot say that they're not going to continue to break the law in extreme ways. I have no confidence in that. No one should have confidence in that. We should have these conversations. We need to be honest with each other. We cannot fix the problem if we can't be honest about what the problem is. The first problem is they're criminals. The second problem is we have politicians begging for them and excusing that they break the law. Third problem is they're using my tax money, your tax money, to let these criminals get a reward. The fourth problem is, like Eric Adams right now, they're going to these illegal aliens, they're going to these criminals, and now, after they made them comfortable, after they have established them in a lifestyle that is lavish for them and even many Americans, and now he's going to kick them out into the middle of the street. And he doesn't think there's going to be a backlash, that there's not going to be a wave of negativity that could include various violent crimes? He's out of his mind. If there is anyone who disagrees with me, I'm happy to hear your voice. I'm always happy to hear what people say. But if you think I'm wrong, if you think that taking illegal aliens and kicking them onto the streets of New York City isn't going to have a backlash, that they're going to just say, well, that's okay, we'll just leave them in the streets and it's all good. They're just going to be happy to be living on the streets of America like they're living in California, which New York City is not California. But if that's what you think, I want to hear it. Please tell me. Tell me why you think that, because I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think anything even close to that's going to happen. That is just too much pixie dust and fairy tales. Just not going to happen. Lynn says, on that note, please go. Oh, people should go and see The Sound of Freedom. She saw it yesterday. It goes over the problems of trafficking. And that what we're talking about is it's 100% correct. Well, yeah, that's my point. And I do hope people see The Sound of Freedom. It's one of the reasons why this is a domestic film. Sound of Freedom, they've spent $15 million to make that film. It's made over $125 million. It is so successful. It connects with people so much, and it is so accurate that it has now, not only has it made 10 times its money back, but now it's getting an international release. So the rest of the world can see the problem with human trafficking, otherwise known as slavery. Because let's stop calling it human trafficking. That is the nice way of saying it. This is how the elite, the liberals, like to say bad things to each other. They change the words. You're not a janitor. You're a sanitation engineer. Don't you feel better now? Yeah, it's not slavery anymore. It's human trafficking. Don't you feel better now? Don't you feel better knowing that you've been human trafficked instead of sold into slavery? Don't you feel better? No, I don't think anyone feels better. The words, just using warm, fuzzy wording doesn't change the problem. It doesn't fix the problem. It's human trafficking. Don't you call it slavery? You don't know what slavery is. Slavery hasn't existed since 19... They want you to believe slavery hasn't existed in America since 1860. That is a lie. It is going on. There are more slaves in the world and in America in 2023 than there have ever been at any other point in time in the history of the world. Let's call it what it is. Oh, Mike, you just can't say that. You just don't understand. Hang on a second. Mike Bowie says, well, isn't that what socialism is? The overloading the system until it collapses? And he also agrees that Sound of Freedom is a great movie. I think it is. I think it's always great when we have very good actors. Jim Caviezel is a great actor. I enjoy him. I started enjoying watching him act when I saw him in The Count of Monte Cristo, which I think is a phenomenal they redid the movie Count of Monte Cristo. It was a wonderful portrayal, good storyline. He did a fantastic job. I think he's a great actor. And you get him, and he's the kind of actor, he doesn't care about being famous. He's not worried about being A-list. He's worried about doing things he believes in. He's not selling out to Hollywood. And that's impressive to me. And so when I saw that Jim Caviezel was in this movie, I had to say to myself, well, I know he doesn't do the Hollywood walk of shame that he's just going to sell his soul for some extra cash. He doesn't do that. He does quality work. He does good films, and he does it because he believes in what he's doing and that he does it well. So that was a great sign. By the way, he also played Jesus in Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ. So he's a great actor. So that meant he was going to do well. And then you look at the story, and you look at the way they covered the story, the way they've been honest about it, when they let you understand how much of an impact it has. And the key here to understand, and what I'm talking about is, and this is connected to illegal immigration. The reason why there's more slavery in the world today than at any other time, because it didn't end in 1860, is because we have open borders. Because it's easy. Because the cartels make money. Because we have set up a system to let them make money. And the less we talk about it, because some feelings might get hurt, because the feelings of some of the progressives are upset because I mentioned the word slavery and I didn't mention 1860, because they get upset about that. That's why slavery is allowed to exist in America today. And that's why we have illegal aliens running around America, destroying our nation and their lives. Now, If there's anyone who disagrees with that, you can call in 607-242-9247. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to agree with me. I'm more than happy to hear you. I am praying for the day that someone can show me the evidence and make the argument and say, Mike, guess what? Good news. Slavery is down in the world. There are fewer people being sex trafficked. There are fewer people who are illegal aliens entering into America. The situation is great. I would love to see that. But that's not reality. See, I understand the difference between the fantasy I have that says I want to see the world do better, and the reality that it's not. Big difference. Let me go to the comments again. Mary mentions the Sound of Freedom points out that the USA is the #1 in child trafficking. Probably why Hollywood did not support this film. Hollywood has a lot of its own problems. I mean, that's one of many problems with Hollywood, that we have so many very questionable individuals. Let's call it individuals who were they took multiple trips to Epstein's Island. The competition for who had the most trips to Epstein's Island is between certain politicians and certain powerful members of Hollywood. Kind of scary, folks. Kind of scary. All right, so, wow. For the first episode in the Bronx, full episode, full Sunday live stream in the Bronx, I think we've done pretty well. As you can see, the lighting has changed in the background, so you can see my face a little bit better now. I'm going to fix it. I'll fix the studio. I got to redo it. We'll fix it. And I'll take into account, I won't point it towards the window anymore. We'll do it. But I think it's been very good. There's a lot going on. We have the media that is lying to us on so many levels. We're being told not to pay attention to the details. They are counting that during this summer, you are not paying attention. They are counting on the fact that you are not going to like, share, and subscribe. They're counting on the fact that you're just going to sit back, you're going to nod your head and say, Mike, yes, I agree with you. I know you're right. I know you're talking the truth. I saw the evidence that you provided. I see the link after the show, so I could actually see the facts, see the science, see the law, see it all for myself. And they are counting on the fact that no one else will ever see it. They will make sure, just like on our short, they will show 85 people on YouTube, even as Instagram will show 5,000 people, and 200 people on Instagram will like that short. And YouTube's going to say, but no one's interested in your video. You have, There's 100 million people watching YouTube. 100 million. And you're telling me that Instagram, which is insanely smaller, with so many fewer people that are mostly young, are going to say 5,000 of them said yes, they're very interested in this, they agree with it. And on YouTube, which is a bigger platform with more people that somehow they just didn't know, you're lying, YouTube. They're censoring us. And I'm emphasizing that because I want you to like, share, and subscribe, of course. I want you to consider being part of my Patreon for $1.50. Not required, but it would be nice. It would help me. I need the money. I admit it. But more importantly, because I bring this all up, they are using you. They are nullifying you. Every single person that they convince to see the evidence and not do anything, they are winning. When you think about Epstein Island, and the abuses of children that went on there, and the fact that the United States government, Merrick Garland, has the Black Book. He has Ghislaine Maxwell. The evidence is there. The investigations should be going on. And instead of doing any investigations, instead of letting us know who's in the Black Book, who went there, instead of asking people, why did you go there once? Or why did you go there 6 times? Instead of doing any of that, they're saying, don't worry. You don't need to worry about this. Go and pay attention to something else. See, that's the problem I have. That's what we're fighting against, folks. Mary says, the southern tier, Mary mentions, the southern tier lost a real American hero, Mike. I get it, though. I want to get out of New York State, too. Won't be far behind me. Yeah. Sadly, that's what we're seeing. I mean, again, when people say, but you're leaving, we all accept, if for a decade, New York State, here's the problem. Matter of fact, it's not just a decade. Let me make it clear for you. Since 1960, longer than I have been, for 6 centuries, 6 decades. For 6 decades, New York State has lost population and congressional district seats. We've been losing seats in Congress. We've been losing our population since 1960. There's a problem there. It's been extremely bad in the last decade, so bad that we embarrass every other state in the nation on how many people we can lose in a year. But it's something we've been doing for 6 decades. You can't tell me that the single party rule, the Democrat progressive push ever towards the left in New York State, you can't tell me that's good and it's effective when the number one result of that is people and businesses leave forever. And we lose political power. We lose seats in Congress forever. You can't say that you're winning. You can't tell. The progressives cannot turn around and say, this is a good thing. You can't. So instead they say, don't talk about it. And if you talk about it, you're the bad guy. It's a shame. They're losing people. I left upstate New York. Other people are leaving New York, upstate New York City. They're getting out of Dodge. And their answer is, well, you're the problem. No. If it was me by myself and everybody was coming to New York, I'd say, you know what, you're right. That's not the answer. For 6 decades, everyone, liberals, conservatives, libertarians, and Republicans, have all been leaving New York State. That I'm not the problem. I'm not wrong. It's New York State. It's the politicians in Albany, the single party rule. They're wrong. Their policies are wrong. Firing 34,000 doctors and nurses because they didn't want to get an experimental jab that we are now seeing in study after study is saying it has side effects and more side effects than we thought. Hey, and we haven't even gotten to the long-term side effects yet. This is just the short-term side effects. We don't know if there's going to be more long-term side effects. We haven't gotten to 10 years yet. This is just year 2 and 3. We don't even know what happens in year 5. Long-term side effects are usually determined in decades, in terms of decades, not in terms of 5 years. So imagine what the long-term effects that kick in a decade. Oh my God. Come on, folks. And we're supposed to think that single party rule is better for us? I don't think so. So there's someone who's saying they're Mike in the house. Who are you, Mike? Oh, it's Liberal Mike. I'm sorry. It's Liberal Mike has joined us today. Hey, Liberal Mike. Thank you. As you can see, my studio's a little different and the screen's a little bit further away from me, so it's a little harder for me to see the comments, so please bear with me. Hello, Liberal Mike. Good to see you with us. Liberal Mike says, every vaccine has side effects. I agree with you, except we were told by Joe Biden, by Dr. Fauci, by political leaders, we were told there were no side effects. That was Joe Biden, December 2022. That was Joe Biden, December 2021. He said it multiple times. So that's a problem. But Liberal Mike goes on to say, the long-term side effects of the pandemic can be really bad. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm not saying that the pandemic didn't exist. I never said that. And I didn't say that there are no long or short-term effects from the pandemic. Didn't say that. What I am saying is the medication that they told us would be without side effect, that was a lie. They told us it would prevent getting the pandemic. That is a lie. They told us that this would stop us from being able to transmit the pandemic. That is a lie. They told us that the jab that was mandated would be able to reduce the impact of the pandemic. That is a lie. Everything they said about that is a lie, because you can get the jab, you can get the pandemic, you can transfer the pandemic. It does not necessarily have any impact on the severity of the pandemic. Everything they said was wrong. And now we get to find out, as we found out in roughly the last 6 months, the news media has finally been allowing people to transmit and show, as we did, the studies that have been done, like the one that was done by Sweden, that was being published by the European, let me pull it up because I don't want to get it wrong, because if I get it wrong, they'll try and kill my channel. So it is from and I'll show it on the screen again, it's from the European Journal of Heart Failure, which is a recognized peer-reviewed scientific journal, which is accredited internationally. And in their studies, we're now finally able to share this information with the public and to let people know, in particular, like women, to let them know that there are higher risks. They lied to us. So, Liberal Mike, and you can call in. You're more than happy to call in, Liberal Mike. I'm not saying there isn't a problem. I'm saying they lied to us about what the problem was and what the solution was. And we need to call them out for that. So, with that said, let me continue here. Hang on. Ram is speaking with us, and Ram says that they've been questioning Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, for 2 months. Attorney General Garland and the FBI Director Wray, they lie in Congress, in the face of Congress. Is Congress being threatened? Why have they not impeached these individuals? So, for the last 2 months, the Director of the FBI, the Attorney General of the United States government, and the Director of Homeland Security, they all have been caught in lies, in failing to do their jobs. You're right. Ram, the question is, why have they not been impeached? Because I believe 2 reasons. One, for any of the politicians that actually tried to push impeachment through, they would lose establishment funding. That includes, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, if they backed punishing these politicians, these political figures that are not doing their jobs, they would lose their political funding. You would see unions that would stop backing them. You would see that they would do, it's kind of like what happened on the 27th of July, 3 days ago. 3 days ago, Move On got all of the Democrats in the Senate, the United States Senate. They got them all together, they had a meeting, and they told them if they support any other candidate other than Joe Biden in the 2024 election, that they will lose all their funding. They will have re-election problems. That's what Move On told the United States Senate, the Democrats in the United States Senate on July 27th. That's what they told them. We know this. We know this. We showed you the evidence of the news report and the article and the details on that very actual conversation. You're just not supposed to remember it. See, and that's why you don't see these impeachments. You don't see these, and really you wouldn't impeach Mayorkas, you would fire him. You would see, it wouldn't be Director Wray for the FBI. He wouldn't be impeached, he would be fired. They are supposed to serve at the pleasure of the United States president, whomever that president may be. So at any given moment, you could see a president say, and resign right now. You're fired, or what they usually do is, rather than fire them, they say, hand in your resignation. And that person will resign on their own because of whatever personal family matter may it be, because it's always a personal family matter. And they'll resign and hand in their resignation. But what it really means is you got fired, that the president just fired you. And then once they're fired, even if they're not fired, criminal charges could be applied. Like, just because Mayorkas is the Department of Homeland Security, he's the secretary, he can still be charged with the crime. He can still be investigated. He can be charged with the crime. His position does not give him immunity for any crimes he may have committed, even if he's in office. The only one who might get that exclusion is president. But that's the head executive of the United States versus everyone else. So we don't need them to be impeached. We just need them to be charged with the crime and let it stick. But they won't do it because they won't get any money. I hope that answers your question, Ram. I wanted to give you some detail about that. I hope it answered it. Going on, Mike said, is the puppy back?
Yes.
Okay.
And give him some water.
Come here. Come here. Come here. By the way, before I go any further, come here. Come here, come here.
I'm coming. But he's in the way.
That's my sister.
Hi,
Oh,
everybody.
come on. There you see? That's my sister. Say
One
thank.
of.
You guys should say thank you to my sister.
For what?
Why I'm not homeless? Go ahead.
Yes.
My sister's the reason why I'm not homeless. So, and that's my sister. And I love my sister.
Love you too.
And she's a little baby. She's like the baby in the family. I'm the old one. She's the youngest. I'm the oldest. There you go. So if there is any person, let's say it that way, if there's any person that is upset that I'm not homeless on the streets right now, well, you can blame my sister. If there's anyone who's happy that I'm not homeless and on the streets, which should be everyone, because that more homeless people doesn't help anyone. So you should be thankful and say, hey, in the comments, just say, thanks, sis, and we'll know you're thanking my sister. Please put that in the comments after the show. Put in the comments, thanks, sis, so she'll be able to see people say thank you. So where was I? So Liberal Mike says, I got that Liberal Mike got vaccinated and is glad that they did that. Okay, fantastic. Liberal Mike, I don't care that people got the jab. Good for you. That's your personal choice. I'm upset that Joe Biden said, I don't have a choice. I'm upset that Kathy Hochul and Gavin Newsom and Whitmer all said, you don't get a choice. Get the jab or you lose your job. You lose your life. You don't even get to have unemployment. You get nothing. You get cut off from the state. You don't get any benefits, even if you've earned them, and you don't get to work, even if you've worked for a year as one of the essential workers, and you get kicked out. They just kicked you out the road, kicked you down, and stepped on your back. See, that's where I have a problem. One, the government doesn't have a right to get involved in my personal health care. Second problem I have, the government doesn't get to decide whether or not I get to work. They don't get to make a mandate like that, especially when the government winds up being wrong. So I'm not saying you shouldn't have done that. That's up to you. That's your choice. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. I am someone who's saying that the government doesn't have the right either. And the government lied, by the way. Just also want to mention, the government lied. That is a fact. It's not an opinion. It's not a guess. It's a fact. Biden lied to you. Mary mentions she's a nurse and she would like to choose which are the risks of side effect that she's willing to accept. Myocarditis is a serious, lifelong, life-altering health problem, which has been proven to be a risk from the jab. So, and that's not a risk that's associated with the pandemic itself. Okay, and that's a nurse mentioning that, so I'll take her word for it. Mary says, thank you to Mike's sister. Ram says, yes, thank you, but it's dumb. What's dumb? Ram, what do you mean, what's dumb? Me? I'm not sure what you meant. Okay, what, saying thank you to my sister? Yeah, maybe, but it's nice. Never hurts to say thank you. Might be silly, but it's just something that, why not? Yeah. So again, and again, to Liberal Mike and to many of the liberals, the Democrats, the progressives out there, let me be very clear. I'm not telling you not to do something that you want to do. I'm telling you, don't force me to do something I don't want to do. There's a big difference. The government doesn't have the right to do that, especially when the government is lying to us about it. It's not just that they said, go do this. They said, go do this because it's perfectly fine. And they lied. And that it's going to protect you. They lied. So that's another big factor. Again, but this goes into the whole corruption. This goes into the government always being wrong. The solution to the problems in the world are almost never the government. The government doesn't know how to do anything right except taxes and commit wars. That's about the only two things that the government gets right. And I would like the government to do nothing but those two things and as infrequently as possible. But that's not likely to happen. Ram mentions that the same things happened in Canada with Trudeau. I know. And we saw a lot of world leaders. It's also what happened in Britain. And we know that because we've seen the WhatsApp, the 100,000 messages from WhatsApp as the Prime Minister was told that lockdowns, locking kids out of schools, had zero benefit to the children. that they had a virtually zero risk of death from the pandemic, that we should not lock them out of schools, and they did it anyway because politics. And again, that's not me saying this. That came from the British government. There was a leak. The evidence is out. We know they admitted that's absolutely true. But, I get punished. This channel gets punished because I'm quoting the BBC News, The Guardian, and the government of the United Kingdom's government. I'm quoting them, and YouTube wants to punish me. They want to punish you. It's not right, folks. It's just not right. All right, so I'm surprised no one wanted to call in today, but not a problem. So sorry, I just got a message about my former house, which is a bit upsetting, but we'll try and deal with that. So, let's be clear. We're going to be in New York for a while. We're going to try and put everything together. And if we can, folks, I want you to support us, like, share. We're going to keep doing it. We're not stopping. And everything gets better. As long as you keep working, you keep trying, things will get better. Just a matter of when. With that said, it's a little hot in New York today. I don't have the window open or the air conditioning going because I'm talking with you guys. I don't want to blow out the fuses. It's not like in my original office. So what I want to do is, we've been on for about 4 hours, I think. I'm going to go in just 1 second. Hang on. We got a comment here. Oh, okay. I understand. Never mind. That was Ram just replying to something we were talking about. It's in the comments. So thank you, Ram, for clarifying that for me. He was upset with Congress, not me. Okay. I always like to know, to understand what my audience is saying. But I want to thank everyone for being part of the audience today, to being involved with us, for giving us some of your time, 4 hours today. And we look forward to speaking to you throughout the week. We're going to continue to do the same work we've been doing. So look for more videos throughout the week. Look out for the J Rest Break. He's still doing the shorts, which we love, and he's very good at that. And a lot of people love that. And then, of course, next Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be back with you, likely from our Bronx studio. And we'll be doing the show, although the studio will be a little bit different. So with that said, I want to thank everyone. I hope you're having a good summer. I hope you get a chance to have a great time with your family and your friends. And I will see you next week. Thank you, everyone.